Economic Development Director. I think you're going to get a broader explanation of the tax increment financing funding from the finance office when they come in, but I wanted to talk about a piece of the expenditures from that from the TIF revenue that we've been requesting for the Union River Center for Innovation since fiscal year it would be fiscal year 2020. So just a summary or background, the Union River Center for Innovation is a business incubator and development center that is located on Water Street in Ellsworth. It was purchased in 2016 through a partnership with the City of Ellsworth and the Ellsworth Business Development Corporation. It has become a program of the Economic Development Department here at the City of Ellsworth for entrepreneurship support, small business development and support, and overall mentorship. There is a focus since its inception and still currently try to honor a focus on biotech, life science, and high-tech industries. We've had several successful business incubator graduates from the programming, and we currently have businesses within the incubator. To help offset the revenues of the center, we have a co-working space, we do private office rentals, we have a conference room rental space, we have a larger space that can be used for educational workshops and things like that is also rented out. Just yesterday, there was a lead remediation and mitigation workshop happening there in partnership with Down East Community Partners. So it's kind of a hive down there where there's lots of things going on. We have a person that we contract with to help administer the facility in partnership with myself, and he has entrepreneurial background in biotech and is a wealth of resources for new entrepreneurs that are coming to this area. So it's been fairly successful. I would say that it operates pretty much like a nonprofit. So the revenues that are generated there are put into the expenses. It's not a high operating budget, as you can see from the handout that I gave you. Last year, if we're working without grant revenue, which was the case for last year for the first time ever, there were no available grants that we found that pertain to innovation and entrepreneurship that could have gone toward this. And so we were operating with a revenue of only $55,000 last year. This year, we are proposing a $69,000 budget. And that would include reaching out to get some sponsorships and some donations toward the center. We are looking at potentially having a program where we ask for sponsorships of different rooms that are located within the facility, as well as potentially donations for a new kitchen. Our kitchen right now is very bare bones. There's no cabinetry in there. We have a sink and we have a toaster oven and we have a microwave, and then there's just basically a shelf where there's mugs and things that people can use. It really is a community space, so we try to encourage that through like a kitchen that can be communal, break rooms that can be communal, things like that. So before using our revenue toward that, we are looking at asking for potential donations for cabinetry, and Jim has assured me that he would be able to install that. So that's great. So no real other changes to the budget other than asking for those sponsorships and donations. And like I said, since fiscal year 2020, we have requested an allocation from TIF funds toward the Union River Center for Innovation. And so I'm here tonight to request that again.
Jana?
Yeah.
Just to clarify, the sponsorship, 10,000, and the donation,
Yes.
that's not coming from the city, that's coming from...
I will be, seeking outside funds,
Okay.
yes.
So as far as the city goes, it's just the same request as last year? For
$25,000,
Okay,
yes.
great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
getting a lot of paperwork.
That's okay, no worries.
And some questions for Janet, but I know if you want, maybe want to finish off with Ann as well, the last overview of the financials. And if you might, just because we started on Janet's portion of the TIF, if you could maybe, once we pass these out, start on your portion of the TIF and just overview the financials.
Okay, so Cameron's gonna back me up here, please.
And then while folks are passing that, I think just to reset the program, we're gonna finish off TIF now, and then we'll go to Sarah from the library. And then we're gonna go to Jim from facilities, and then we'll hear from the Public Works crew. And then next week, we have the fire and police capital side of things. One, Scott's not here for his side of the fire, and B, police are presenting their full budget. So instead of having them come out twice, we're gonna do fire, police, capital, plus full police budget. And tomorrow, we're gonna email you that full police budget. We've gone over it about 3 times already, so you'll have it pre-come in. And we'll make sure to bring in some paper copies too, but
And that's Wednesday, and
the
that's.
24th, yeah.
And that's the same night that we're doing the
Yep, the
special.
special meetings.
6 o'clock special meeting, a 6:15 special meeting, and then, extra special.
Super special.
Super, and then we blend into, we'll probably have fire go first, just so that they can do their capital side, take off, and maybe do the police capital at the front end, and the rest of police.
Erky, can,
Yes.
so, you still have spaces to rent the
We,
incubator piece?
we have 3 offices available right now, and we have room for 2 incubator tenants. So I'm reserving 2 of those spaces for incubator tenants, and then 1, actually in the summer months, we get a strong demand for co-working space. So for the time being, we have enough desks, and the office is big enough where we can set up 4 desks in this office that's available. So we will make it open for co-working space unless we get someone else that wants to use it for a private office rental. So we try to maximize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a great program.
Thank you.
I really like it a lot, and what you've done with it.
Thank you.
There's been some successful businesses that have come out of it, so.
Yeah, and we're working,
Which is
we're gonna be circulating a press release, but we've been part of the statewide Top Gun program this year. And so we have 2 businesses that, one is an incubator tenant at Erky, and the other is not, but I hope to try to lure her in if she's listening, probably not, but, but yeah, so, we have a lot of good leads and potentials right now, so I'm feeling confident and happy with the way things are going there.
Thank you.
Can you just give an example of a business success that came out of it? I know we don't want to.
Sure, yeah. So I always use gel hydration technology. I'm sorry, that's one of our companies. They're great too. But GTCA is Genetic Genotyping Center of America. Had to think about it for a second. They do genetic testing. Their lab is in Waterville, but they have listed Erky as a backup lab space. They still have an office presence there, and they went through 5 years of our business incubator program and graduated, if you will. And they've been able to be successful with quite a bit of grant funding, to the point that they secured an additional salesperson. So their market has definitely grown, and they're doing really well. So we helped with their scale up from where they were when they were here in Ellsworth to where they are now. And they've had quite a few businesses try to acquire them, and the deal just hasn't been right for them at this point in time, but that's the point that they're at in their growth process, so it's great. And Kat Taylor, who is one of the co-founders, is still local here in Bar Harbor, and she was our first mentor and entrepreneur in residence down at the center while GTCA was still there. And I still can contact her if there's a good match for her to mentor of a business or company that comes in. So yeah, it's been good.
Anyone have any other questions? Thanks, Jim.
Okay, thank you.
I think we're gonna do Ann on just to finish TIF off on the financials.
Okay. Let me try to explain that.
Which stack of paper do we go to?
We are on the TIF.
Right here.
Was it in your original?
No, this was
Or
new,
this
we
is-
just
Does anyone have two of these copies?
We'll
The-
just keep digging.
Have two of what?
you don't
Was
have
this
any?
document just passed out, or is it?
Yeah, it was just,
That's all I
I don't think I took out.
What are you
Second
looking at?
page of this,
Oh, okay.
third page of this,
That's
excuse
just
me.
revenue.
Oh, go back. Yep, there it is.
There it is.
Okay. It's hiding.
Got it.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you, Tam.
I don't
You're
know.
welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so my understanding of TIF, which Tammy was explaining to me this afternoon, is essentially tax revenue that's sort of pulled out of the regular tax rolls, and then that money is used to cover other expenses, different, whatever it's, the agreement is that we're gonna do with the money. So the first one, the economic development TIF, is for the property taxes collected on Beckwith Hill, which is Walmart, all that area. And then the second TIF, which is senior housing, includes Oriole Way, Leonard Lake, and actually don't know the other two. They don't have the refund portion of it. It's very, I'm sorry, it's very confusing to me, these TIFs. It's unique to government, so I've never really understood them very well. So basically, what we would normally consider tax revenue now becomes expense.
So the reason that it's
Yeah.
considered an expense is because, so we have all of these parcels of land that we need to collect money on. But we need to collect it through taxation, so we need to expense it on that budget sheet. I know it sounds a little confusing, I know,
I
right?
think if you say, so we collect the taxes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And then
our
the
taxes.
Our taxes.
Yeah.
So that we collect the taxes. The portion that is TIF has to come out of our general fund and into the TIF district. So that's expensed out of the taxation and then put it as a revenue
Right.
as a TIF district. But then the revenue
Revenue.
shows up in your revenue line. It's just a way of making sure that we're keeping track of exactly what is TIF, because it's a
Yeah,
DECD
so it's not
program.
like some special extra money that comes from it.
It
So
isn't,
It's just
no.
regular
No,
tax
it's-
money from those zones.
Yes, but it's sheltered.
But
In the
yeah.
sense it comes from, off the,
tax
like,
rolls.
from your, the state, what is it called?
So the re-
Assessment.
Assessment.
The
right.
revenue sharing.
So it's sheltered, so.
It's sheltered, so it doesn't negatively affect your revenue sharing, it doesn't negatively affect the school subsidies, because all of that is based on your growth. So if you have it set aside as a TIF, it's not part of your growth, it's taken out of that revenue stream. So say we have, I don't know, I'm just gonna say $1 million in TIF money that comes in. That's $1 million that comes off our assessment by the state. And then that means that, so that's not, that $1 million isn't taken into consideration in our growth, which usually, the more you grow, the less money you get from the state, right, and the education. So that's taken away and sheltered, in essence. But the money is, there's a plan, and you got the plan, right?
Yep, I do, and I can explain it a little bit, if you'd like me to.
Yep.
Okay, so, the city was approved for an amendment, for the Beckwith Hill TIF, which was originally approved in 2008, but we did amend it because we identified additional parcels that we wanted to do. Basically, it was originally just the Beckwith Hill area and the, business park in North Ellsworth. Then we decided that it might be a good idea to kind of expand it, so we went out the Bucksport Road, because we were looking at some sort of development out there. And we also have a parcel of property out near the hospital that we were looking to develop. In total, we have 1,030 acres in our economic development TIF. And you are allowed 2% of your total, acreage.
Thank you.
So because Ellsworth's so big, we get to have such a large amount, so very fortunate that way. When this program was approved, you had to identify the different types of economic development TIF projects that you were interested in. So you have projects that are within the district, which is those areas that I just talked about. And so that included any sort of Bucksport Road infrastructure, Bucksport Road environmental planning, Myrick Street infrastructure, and then the Beachland Road, which is actually part of the TIF documents that we have. It's part of the debt there. So you have some out-of-district but related items that were identified. So any capital improvements, like if we wanted to do a downtown TIF district, and there was also identified, it's not in the TIF district, but it really does affect, so the Bayside Road. So a mile portion, it's being affected because of the TIF. If there's development up there, it's gonna impact that Bayside Road, so that's why we identified that. Then you have community-wide investments. So this would be the economic development budget, because it's community-wide, economic development consulting, economic development business visitation program, local matches for economic development grants, stormwater management planning, because while the development is gonna create more stormwater, business attraction and planning and program, and recreational trails. We did identify recreational trails at Norton Park. We paid for the portion of the walking trails within that area so that it would help, because people are out there walking on the trails. And that is part of, we're just paying that off, so, correct me if I'm wrong, but the
After
Norton
December, we're
Park
done with
and
Knowlton.
Beachland Road, those are gonna pay off in FY 2025. So, yay.
That's great.
You mean the projects are paid off?
Those two projects are paid off, yes. For the debt service.
Nancy?
I want to add one more piece of explanation from the you know the finance end of it, but I've done advocacy in support of TIFs.
Okay.
So just like the big picture on what this thing is, so, and you correct me, I think I've got it. Tax increment financing is taxes on the incremental increase in valuation for a property, and then the financing that comes from it. So a developer may come and say, I'm gonna do this amazing thing that's gonna be great for the city, but when I do these improvements, the taxes are gonna go up because I have increased the value. The TIF allows the city to say, we will take a percentage of the tax on that increased value, and we're gonna set it aside for certain improvements that are gonna help your business or help the community. So the whole idea of it is like a negotiation with the developer. You come in and do amazing, great things for the city. We're gonna help by taking some of the property taxes that you are paying and dedicate it to things that will help. So it might be utilities or other improvements that help where they're physically located, and then more broadly, able to apply it to other things that the state allows, like affordable housing, economic development, the list goes on. So that's like the background of it. And so the city's approved for it and wants to do them, then developers can say, let's talk about doing this. So when there's development where we want it to be, everybody wins because you can bring that money in, and part of the deal is it doesn't impact your valuation for deciding how much money the state sends to help support what we're doing.
Why does it help the developer though?
Well, no, I don't know if we identified
They get
any
refunds.
credit enhancement
We
agreements in the
don't.
economic
We don't.
development one.
Okay.
We
But
don't
the-
do credit enhancement except for the housing.
Except for the housing,
Yeah.
the senior housing and the workforce housing, we do credit enhancement. So basically, they're getting half the taxes of their assessment. Then the other pieces have been identified in the TIF document. One of them goes 50% to the school, and then the other one's 50% to the Moore Community Center.
Jen, I don't know if you have anything, you've said some great
Yeah.
stuff that you told me about. Just kind of
Yes.
How you use this as a tool for.
Right, so Nancy's right, like, that's the purpose of it, that's the tool mechanism, and so here's an example, so if we got a housing manufacturing developer that came to Ellsworth and was like, I wanna site my manufacturing plant here, I'm gonna create 15 jobs, it's going to be beneficial to the housing problem that you have here in this region, you know, would you do a credit enhancement agreement on this economic development project with me? And so I would probably I would work with the manager and then come to the council and say, listen, there is this great project, these are the economic benefits to the city of Ellsworth. Do we want to do a credit enhancement agreement because of the benefit, because of the jobs made, because of the benefit that it would have to helping with the housing crisis that we have in this area? You know, X, Y, and Z. There would be a reason why we would want to go forward with that. In some areas, the area that is is a TIF district is an area that is blighted. So it is, a brownfield area, or it's an area where you're not getting many hits on development, but you want to channel development there, so you need to incentivize a developer or somebody to come there using this tool. So it does have flexibility. It has the ability to attract businesses. It has the ability that if a business is already interested, you can work with them and further incentivize that. If they're having trouble, there's significant wetlands, and so the road has to be all crazy, to be able to make that land work. Otherwise, that land is just going to sit there undeveloped because, it's costly to invest in it. So there's definitely different circumstances under it, but it is a tool to attract development in areas that you want it, that in many cases would be an economic benefit to the city. I will tell you straight up, though, we do not have any economic development credit enhancement agreements currently in the city of Ellsworth. We have these areas where we could invite developers to look at them, but we don't have any true economic development ones. We have housing ones. So that's the differentiator there, but that's not to say that we don't have that tool in our back pocket. And when I spoke about the economic development budget for FY25, we're actually exploring that plan, looking at the 2013 plan and seeing if it needs updating and how we can, it's been since 2013, so it's been, over 10 years, 12 years. So the time has come where there's been a lot of change within the city, and maybe we need to re-explore where those TIF districts are located.
Just one other thing to add, it's not only can you use it to attract new businesses, you can also use it as an incentive to help businesses that are here expand.
Absolutely.
We did that with New Balance's new plant in Skowhegan. We helped drafted a new TIF district for them, and they just they're building like a $60 million plant or something. So it's also an opportunity to think about businesses that are here that may be looking to grow and finding ways to support them as well.
Absolutely.
And then are there rules again about who can get a credit enhancement? Like big box stores, retail, and
Yeah,
things
That's right.
like that can't get it.
Yeah.
It has to be.
So-
Typically, retail, it really should be a unique project or something that is not an everyday occurrence within the city of Ellsworth. So the New Balance expansion is there is no other New Balance headquarters in the state of Maine that I'm aware of. So, that's a unique situation, and it's a great opportunity for Skowhegan. So typically, manufacturing, craft manufacturing, light industry, those types of things, something that's going to provide, a chance for jobs, but also it's not, we didn't, like when Walmart went up on Bickwith Hill, that was not TIF'd because it's, it's a
It
big
wasn't
box
credit
and it's
enhancement TIF, but
retail.
It was TIF'd.
Right, exactly.
It was TIF'd for
Yes.
us, but we didn't give them any.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, they kind of, and in the past, housing wasn't looked at as something to be TIF, but that is all changing given what's going on, so. Yeah.
So yeah, the document actually states that the council will entertain the credit enhancement agreements with individual businesses and developers to stimulate desired private sector investment and associated quality job creation.
Okay.
So I think that's what eliminates the big box stores.
Yeah, it's always tough. That's the economic development metric, right? Job creation, so yeah.
If I could add too, the other thing, broadly, again, I work state policy, not in the nuts and bolts of it, but retail's gonna go where it makes sense to be retail. Manufacturer, they've got some flexibility on where it makes sense, but Walmart's gonna go where Walmart knows it's got the population count and the customers, so.
And Walmart actually is in our TIF, so.
But not,
Yeah,
they
no,
don't,
no,
not
they
for
didn't get
the, not for
anything,
the
right,
other ones,
yeah.
not
Yeah.
to,
But we
Right,
tipped that
in-
because of the additional
Yeah.
taxation that we suddenly
right,
received from it.
but not an incentive to bring to them
No.
by developing,
Yeah.
by spending more on their business.
So one place where it didn't work is, so the Bucksport Road, we tipped that because we really, there's some, a lot of work that needs to be done with water and wastewater, well, not water as much, but wastewater, and we hoped that we could get a business or an industrial or some type of business that would go there, and we could do a credit enhancement TIF if it was jobs, and that they would use that money to put in, the sewer down there and a pump station. never happened.
Well, it's because we needed like, what, 3 pumps to go up that big hill? And to,
Or one big
my-
pump station.
Was
Yeah,
it,
no.
yeah, I remember it
I
was like,
mean,
there was
when
like
you were
huge
looking to
expense.
expand out the Bucksport Road, like all the way across the flat stretch
Mm-hmm.
before you hit that next hill, which would have required a big pump station and then a lot of gravity main to the pump station and force main back up into town.
Right.
And so, you know, it would have been a significant investment of any individual business.
Can you come to the Mike?
Ba-dum-bum.
Table two, they can set the table tonight.
Mike Harris, Ellsworth wastewater superintendent. Mike check, 1 2 1 2. No, we looked at possibility of expanding out the Bucksport Road with a public sewer, going down over the hill, going out of town, across the flat stretch, to open up all that area along that flat stretch for possible development. And we were trying to incentivize people to come and invest in putting in that infrastructure. And on top of that, I don't know if you remember, but we also put in our ordinance, I actually do have a mechanism in my ordinance that if somebody extends our sewer, we have the ability to let them recoup 75% of their construction cost via collecting a fee for everybody that ties in along that line. We set up a mechanism where we would collect the money and then pass it on to the developer that constructed the main. So those two options were there, and we didn't get any bites, but the option, that mechanism is still in the ordinance, because it's not just for Bucksport, it's for anybody that extends the sewer. But unfortunately, we did not get,
Hasn't worked yet,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
yeah.
yet,
We're still hoping.
yes.
Well, and I think that's part of the, looking at that plan, and looking at where the TIF districts can go, if they should stay or be changed, but also bringing in Mike and Reggie and Adam and Public Works to have those conversations, as to what that means for infrastructure and maybe strategize on ways that we can get it to work. Right?
Yep.
So the TIF expires, I think, in 2030. However, after next year, we were in economic development TIF, we collect 67% of the taxes brought in by it. In 2026, it starts dropping down to like 60, 50, 40. So like when you get to the end of your TIF, you're not getting this huge bump from not having it sheltered. So I think, though, you can recreate this and then add like another 30 years onto it. I believe that's how it works. Am I correct on that? Do you remember, Michelle? If you
Can't remember, I
Yes.
think so.
if you
Yeah.
Oh, it is. If you redo it, then
You can
you're like, you
amend
can
it.
start
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because I
That'd be
think
good.
we started that in 2008.
Yeah,
was the first
2008,
one,
and then we
we
amended
redid it in 2013, so we would have been done completely by 2028 if we hadn't.
That's right, yeah. So.
I have a question on the map, just make sure I'm understanding Ellsworth. So the TIF districts are where you are, where this benefit is eligible. So these are the places you're encouraging development versus where the benefit comes.
Correct.
Well, it's a combination, because
I was gonna
the,
say, so there's a little neighborhood in there that doesn't seem like it would be a
No, that-
commercial development. That
Commerce,
must
I
be
think
the
that's
housing.
Commerce Park.
Commerce Park.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That does
Yeah,
make sense.
And then there's one parcel out near the hospital, because we were trying to get some like,
Yeah.
a lab service or something
Yeah.
like that, out there. I
Okay,
don't know where the hospital is.
that's the one that
That-
we can't sell because it has too many.
It's like 31 lien holders.
31 lien
or,
holders on it.
no, family members that needed to sign.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
what could go wrong?
I know, right?
Thank you.
Anything else on TIFs?
Was that helpful?
I think I get it, actually.
Okay, good.
It actually is very easy. Once you break it down like that, it's
You get
very
it?
easy to understand.
All right.
I like it, yeah.
You don't like it?
Yeah, I know.
Anne, is that more helpful for you as well, hearing all that?
It's slowly absorbing into my mind.
You did.
I think we've
Yeah.
got Sarah from Libraries up, and Jim, you're on deck.
Just tell us what pieces of paper we need to do.
Okay. So it's It's in the
library
stuff
over here.
That part.
Just gonna hand it out.
And there's a one piece of
Yeah,
paper.
it's a new, it was separate.
Is this going under a, like, is there a number we should put this?
I don't, right now, I think it's to choose your own adventure on numbers.
Pick a number, any number.
But
We're
yeah.
gonna get a whole new book, you
As,
said.
as I said before, yeah, and Nate and I talked about, when we finish this kind of first round process, we've been taking notes, we're gonna circle the wagons and create a new budget book for the kind of final rounds and the redlining. Takes page numbers,
Page numbers,
takes
summary.
into all the tabs, takes in your comments and feedback, and then have some more fun budget sessions. I know you all love it. Maybe we do some pizzas or something.
You know, that would be nice.
Because I'm hungry.
Can we go to Crazy Sumo maybe, and we'll have it knocked in over? I heard that we can go.
Fire's going.
Bring a hot top down here and have some food on the table.
What are you missing?
Little hibachi workshop.
Don't mind us, you can start.
Go ahead.
Okay, no, I only have one little piece of paper, no updated quotes yet. I was supposed to get one back today, and then they were missing some information. So when you are making your fancy books, hopefully I'll have quotes to include in our boiler heat pump adventure. And then we can make a decision on how to move forward. So I've got 3 companies that are providing quotes for high-efficiency boilers and heat pumps, just to give us all the options. I already did the efficiency main consultation. They got me pointed in the right direction, but now I have to send out that paperwork and then just play the waiting game. So we'll see. Any other
Okay, so I have 4.
Guidance
of the
you wanna
same
give
piece
me?
of paper.
So you'll know how much you're gonna get back from efficiency main.
That'll be part of it.
Be part of it.
Yeah, I have the correct forms and sent out to the companies,
Okay.
and then it's kind of on them. I feel like I'm not doing much. I'm giving them forms with my name on them, and hopefully they fill them out. Keep calling until they do.
That's exactly what you're gonna have.
Right, just call. Yep.
So I know with efficiency men, usually when they show up for a consult, they get their heat gun out.
No, I just had a phone consultation,
Okay.
and she said that they usually don't do the site visit.
And we talked about it probably for way
Today.
too long today. I think it was about half an hour of our hour-long meeting, and I'm kind of a heat pump geek. I went through 6 different vendors in my house. And then Matt and I talked about it with City Hall and kind of what we can do. So I think we'll circle back up again on the process. And I think there's, even here, and Mike, you've been fighting the good fight with heat pumps too. So, but then you got to worry about generators, and do you do the boiler, and but we'll make sure we get more information for those final books, so you all can make some decisions on now or what we can do.
Great.
Thanks, Sarah.
Evening, councilors. Jim McLean, City Facilities. Where would you like to start? I only have 3.
Tell us what
You
we're
tell
looking for
us.
in front of us.
Where are we supposed to, what are we looking at?
I'm hoping you got the updated ones. I submitted several different drafts over a period of months, so.
Summarizes everything. Did you guys get?
Is it this one we're working off of?
Yeah, so his
Sarah,
facilities.
are these relatives of
Thank you for
yours?
coming.
Are these your relatives
Thank you.
or
Thanks.
Trustees.
trustees?
This is Craig McDonald, he's
Some of you know me, I'm
our
sure.
board chair.
Okay.
And this is Judy.
You all.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
All right, well,
Facilities.
could be. Should be 3 of them.
So I in theory
facilities.
have one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in the book that we got the other day.
Did you submit them the latest and greatest?
Well, that
when you
Charlie.
asked?
Yeah.
Charlie
Yeah.
gave it to me.
Yes.
Okay, 3 proposals, not 3 pieces of paper. I am good to go.
So you want to start with the exterior painting one?
Sure.
Again, as you can tell from the exterior of the building, is pretty rough shape. We did put in a capital improvement request last year for the painting, and unfortunately, we ended up using that money to go towards the chimney, because the chimney repair quotes came in twice what my capital improvement request was for. That's how it was explained that we'd use it. So once again, I'm bringing to you a request to redo the exterior paint of City Hall. As it says in my capital request, it does not include these windows. There's 15 of these windows that are not worth spending the money on. They are, the
Oh,
wood's
so that's
rotten.
not included.
It's all above, dormers, the little trim piece, the gutters, the ornate gable end pieces that go around. Unfortunately, a lot of it may have to be replaced because of how long it's gone since it's been scraped and painted. What little bit I've looked at from the flat sections of roof that I could access, it seems good, but there's a very small investigation, if you will, as to the overall project. It's gonna be, once they get into it, some of it, I'm quite positive is gonna need to be replaced. But the rest of it seems solid, needs to be scraped and repainted.
How often does that need to be done?
Well, I don't know how long,
In your
I don't know when the last time it was
No, but
done.
if we
but-
do this
That's the
again,
next
when is the next?
Oh, if the wood's good, contractor does a good job, 10 years, 8 years, 10 years. I'm guessing by the shape and what's left there, that it probably hasn't been painted since 20 years maybe. I don't know if anybody's done anything outside here. I know these windows are probably, when they remodeled the place in '99, put these remodel windows in and used the original wood trim that was still from '35. They must have put a coat of paint on them then.
Yeah, because those are new windows, the actual windows themselves. but
Yeah, they're a
I think
remodel
they
window. They
listed-
pulled the old wooden sashes
Yeah.
out and then they put a vinyl
From 99.
replacement window in, but they
From
left
99,
all the
yeah.
exterior trim.
No. Do you remember when we put those in? Remember we used to snow around those? We got those.
In the renovation in '99,
It
wasn't it?
was after, because we had to go through historic preservation, because they were wooden windows.
Oh, yeah, because you weren't here during the renovation.
I think it was the year I started,
God, yeah,
2005.
that was longer than,
Did they replace these windows?
That they did the replacement.
Just the windows, but
Yeah.
the wood pieces around it.
No, they didn't replace any of the wood.
No, that was one,
Yeah. So 2005, they came in and replaced the windows?
pretty sure.
That sounds about right.
So, needless to say, next year's project is gonna be replacing the trim on the outside of all these windows. But, I thought they can go another year, so I didn't include that in this year's capital request.
so if you had someone come and give you an estimate, is that where you came up, or is
I
that
did
yours?
2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, I had a painting contractor come and just give me an estimate. It was like I think it was around 25,000, just to scrape and paint, not including any wood, replacement if needed. That's why I proposed 35 this year, because, price increases, the possibility of wood needing to be replaced, a lot of that's gonna be expensive, some of it may be.
So I have a question, and if this isn't the right part, at least the question is on the table. When we're talking about the painting of the building, what is the plan for the deterioration of the emblem that's at the peak of the front of City Hall?
We're in the process of working on that.
Okay.
Matt and I have gone ahead and contacted the University of Maine. It's kind of at a stalemate right now. We're looking at the possibility of, and the Historical Society, of the University of Maine doing a 3D
The 3D printing, wonderful.
process.
Okay.
But it's several years down the road, and there is the likelihood, the Historical Society, I think, is kind of, Preservation Committee.
I was
think
gonna
is
ask if they were involved, so that's good.
kind of pushing to get the seal removed to preserve it from any more deterioration.
Right,
Next week, I intend to get a lift, amongst other projects, to get up there and investigate it closer, as far as how badly degraded it is. Parts of it have fallen off already.
right.
What we can find, it appears to be installed in 13 sections, how it's fastened, some different things, pictures for the university, they needed something,
Right.
so that they could get a better understanding of how it's constructed and that sort of thing, but it's,
So the wood copper in Rockland is the one, he's been there twice, and he took it completely down and refinished it in Rockland in his shop, and then he came back years later and did another kind of patch job on it. So he knows exactly, because he took it completely apart and can't remember. Yep, I do. It's right on Route 1, and I can get that for you, because I went to the shop when he was doing it. It was amazing. 'Cause
Is he still in
those men
business?
are almost as tall as I am.
is he still in business?
Mm-hmm.
Because what we read was,
No.
That's what I thought.
how long ago was the article in the paper? Way out of your mind?
So
Yeah,
this is-
I mean, it was 20, the article that, the information that we found through the Preservation Committee and Matt and I researching it was 30 years ago, 20 years ago, something like that they rebuilt that. So, I mean, I'm guessing the guy was probably in his 40s.
When we get into the May council meeting, maybe part of my Historic Preservation Commission report, I can give more. They've been gathering this information. I'm glad to know it's connected up with you. There's newspaper articles, they show the name of the
Yeah,
guy who did the changes and all of that.
Yeah,
so-
Tom.
It wasn't 30 years ago.
it wasn't 30 years ago,
Probably
No.
at 15 to 20.
15 to 20,
Not much that.
that they took it down and redid it.
Yeah, but that was an old news article, so maybe it happened.
And then he
after
came
the
back.
article was written.
Well,
Because
like
you
I
guys,
said,
I don't know, but, because he brought his lift
And
and he, on the bricks, and he dented them. So we had to redo them.
That's right.
Remember that?
so.
Do you remember what the same is, Tim?
Nope.
That
was quick. I mean, I have it in
Probably
a
only
file
one guy.
upstairs as part of the newspaper articles and stuff that the Preservation Committee, Tom provided for us to get a little more information.
Yeah, he's right in Rockland, and
I
honestly.
would
you go
imagine
right
there
by
are
his
people
shop.
on the commission who are watching over
No,
live
no.
streams who are screaming the answer at us.
Yeah,
But-
right.
Text Nancy.
Yes, text me, Tom or Jen, you want to text me the answer?
Maybe he's not in business, I can't find him. But anyways, I'll find it, because I know it's right on the tip of my tongue, I just can't think of it.
I feel like
picture it
Steve
twice.
Doyle tried to find that information, and for some reason, maybe he wasn't in business.
He might not be in
So,
business anymore.
Yeah.
So I have another question for, I don't know, you or the council, why is painting a capital expense when it's maintenance?
Because
Dollar
it's a
amount.
lot of money it's not just.
Anything over 10,000.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, so it's
Or
not
15.
the use, it's the,
It's a project as a whole,
Got
over
it.
$10,000.
thank you.
I didn't know that.
No, it's all good stuff.
Okay. That's all I have on that. If anybody else has any other questions? All right, moving on to the other fire department. I'm saving the big one for last. So, the fire department has had an ongoing issue with the electrical system downstairs. The, what do you call those air pumps, Joe? Kuzmal. The Kuzmal units on the fire trucks. I've had an electrician in a couple of times. We've messed around a little bit and got it, I think, kind of a temporary fix. There's too much amperage on the circuits that the fire trucks are plugged into for the onboard air pump systems, Kuzmal systems on the fire trucks, as I understand it, which is delaying response time. Air brakes, they leak down as they sit for a while, and if it's below a certain PSI, the truck has to sit there and idle for the air brakes, for the air pressure to pump up, the brakes to release, they can leak. They have an onboard 110 system, the Kuzmal system that's supposed to maintain that. Unfortunately, what's happening is with all the modern electronics, battery charging stuff that's on the fire trucks for the battery operated tools that the fire department uses, there's too much draw on the circuits. So I have contacted an electrician, the same electrician that we've kind of split some circuits up and done what we could do within the code. Unfortunately, we're kind of hamstrung by the electrical code as to what we can do and what we can't do down there with what's currently there. So we looked at running another circuit and a sub-panel to the fire department to feed those trucks. Each truck is supposed to, by code or statute or something, be on their own individual circuit, not multiple vehicles on one circuit. Plus allowing us to get that panel on the generator. And then in addition to that, moving, right now when the power goes out, the clerk and tax office is not on generator. And finance and I think this whole section. The old PD, the fire department, parts of upstairs, the HVAC system, that's all on the generator. We do have a spare circuit down there currently. It's a 100 amp circuit for the generator. What the electrician proposed to me was, and he did a load test and did some other things, and what he proposed is to swap the old PD, which currently is not gonna have the electrical draw that it had when the PD was in there. Now it's the fire department administration and training room. Swapping that panel over to the spare 100 amp circuit, they're currently on a 125 amp circuit, and moving the panel that operates the tax office and the clerk's office to that 125 amp circuit, thus allowing when the power goes out, City Hall can stay functioning. Right now, everything goes dark other than the emergency lights, so if the power goes out, they have to go home or shut the office because none of the computers work, none of the lights work. So as part of that request for $30,000, that would be swapping those two panels around, running the new circuit and the sub panel, and rewiring downstairs for the 5 engines, including the ambulance, so that they would be on their own 100 amp circuit. And that confuse all of you? Yeah.
Can we go back to TIFs?
Go back to that. Yeah, electrical issue, I mean, it's like chasing a gremlin. They've had ongoing battle since I started down there. With the electrical systems, the breaker would kick, they wouldn't know the breaker's kicked. They get a call, they fire up the truck's not gonna move because the air pressure's down. And they never knew that the breaker had kicked because of the amperage draw. One circuit had 3 fire trucks on it. We only had a 20 amp circuit. The Ansel, what do you call it thing again? Kuzmal draws 11 amps when it's running. So, onboard air compressor. So you've got, 33 amps. If 3 trucks on one circuit on a 20 amp circuit, you got 33 amps draw as soon as they kick on. So that's not counting any of the batteries for the tools. So that would break that up and solve that issue, hopefully. Unless there's another gremlin down there I don't know about, but that would kill that gremlin. All right, any questions on that?
I have a question about that.
Sure.
Kuzmal?
Kuzmal.
So that is charging your air system and electronics? Is that?
No, the Kuzmal is just an onboard air pump that maintains the pressure in the air tanks on each fire truck. If the air tanks, if it sets and the air seeps out, gets down to below a certain PSI, the brakes are locked. So, and they don't know that because the breaker's kicked. So they get a call, they go fire up the truck, now they've gotta sit there for 30 seconds, a minute, or 2 minutes, however long, that's beyond me. Before the engine air compressor pumps that system up, so that the brakes are released, and then they can respond.
But is that doing more than just running that onboard air compressor to keep the brakes charged?
No, that's all that does, that's just the brakes. But when they plug that truck in, that is also, what I call, shore power, is running that compressor, plus it's running battery chargers that they have in each vehicle that, keep cordless tool batteries
Right, okay.
charged.
All right, so it's doing more than just,
More, yeah,
when you plug that in, it's doing more than maintaining air pressure,
correct.
So
right?
like the issue, Steve, is that the compressor, when it kicks on, is drawing the 11 amps, and if they all three kick on, they
Right.
trip the breaker.
Plus, if you've got a Milwaukee, say Milwaukee 18 amp battery or 18 volt battery charger, and you've got 3 batteries charging because you just came back and you used a lot of cordless equipment, there's another 5 or 6, 7 amps.
So in the interim, why couldn't an air compressor downstairs charge these every morning?
It's not a matter of charging them in the morning, it's over a period of time. So if they come back and plug in, and the truck sits there for 5 hours, let's say, and the compressor had kicked on when they first plugged it in, and then one of the other trucks kicked on, it kicks the breaker, they don't know it's not running.
Right, but a simple check of the gauge once daily, you could make sure that you external charge those brakes. You follow where I'm going from?
Fire department personnel would have to speak to that one.
I mean, if this is an ongoing problem, there's a quick fix here.
So.
I'm not saying don't do it, I'm saying that if you're suffering with that, external air charges is done in the mechanic world all the time.
Two problems. Well, first, to answer your first question, every morning every truck gets checked and the air pressure is checked.
Okay.
If it's low, it's charged. That may, depending on the age of the truck, it may last 2 hours, it may last all day. Some leak more than others, they air down. So the Kuzma is designed to offset that, so we don't have to monitor it. It automatically kicks in when it needs to. The difficult part about running air to each truck is we have one compressor in the station that does everything. We would have to run the lines to each truck. This was a cheaper solution than doing that.
Oh, I'm not disputing any of that. What I'm saying is if this is an ongoing problem, one hose, external air plug into your air tanks and blow them up every morning gets you in a better spot than not doing that. That's what I'm getting at. Much like you're charging your brakes without running your truck.
We'd have to run individual lines to 4 trucks.
No, you'd have to do it manually.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is run around manually and do it. If it's an ongoing problem where you're sitting there and you can't go, charging those brakes like a mechanic shop does is an easy fix. A quick disconnect on the end of the air tank and you fill your air tank.
Well, our fix right now is just to run the truck. Well,
I know, that's what I'm getting at. Is if it's an ongoing problem, you can charge that quickly, every day. But not to say this isn't well spent, but if this is something you're suffering with, there's a quick fix tomorrow morning to make that happen.
And Scott's back next week, so I'll put him on my list and talk about it.
You're meaning as a temporary fix until this can be done?
Correct, that's what I'm
okay.
talking about. I'm saying, take one airline, a quick disconnect, charge those air tanks every single morning, and that may avoid some of that until this is done. That's what I'm saying.
we're talking about the same thing. You're saying running an airline, we're saying when we do our truck checks and they're low, we air them up then.
Okay.
We're doing the same thing,
Okay.
just a different method to do it. But I understand what you're saying, absolutely.
Don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
You might as well.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
I'm sorry, Darrell Clark, Captain.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Any more questions on that item?
I think you said it was part of the statute in there, that each had to have its individual.
As I understand it from the fire department, that by, and I don't know exactly where it comes from, whether it's a fire industry or an electrical code, but
Electrical code.
each truck is supposed to be on its own circuit.
Is it probably cheaper to do all the other fixes you were talking about at the same time? That electrician's coming in, rewiring, moving panels around?
Yeah, it's all pretty much in the same area, because he's gonna pull off in the main breaker down in the electrical room and go through the wall just a short distance with the trunk line and put in the sub panel, and then we're gonna reuse the existing conduit that's there and try to use as much of what's there now that comes from the panel down here in the hallway where the front office.
Could you combine the two capital projects into one?
Which one?
The first one you did and that one.
No, I think you've answered it's just more efficient, you're saying, is to do it all kind of at once and reuse parts. and
Oh, you mean
conduits.
as far as the sub panel and changing the yeah, it's all one.
Yeah, that's.
That's all part of the one, he's here, do it all at once, type of deal. That it? All right, well, now this is the biggie. So as you may or may not be aware, the fire department forever has had moisture issues. Kind of the nature of the beast, this whole front wall, from one end of the building to the other. You have bedrooms in the back corner, in the back half, office space in the front half. Foundation is brick. My opinion is, before the hardscape was all put in, the stairs and the brickwork and stuff like that, there was no perimeter drainage, so they have water coming through the walls into the sleeping area, causing, you know, all sorts of things, mold, algae. The storage closet that they have off the captain's office, I've got buckets of mold catching, not mold catching, but water catching buckets in there, and their uniforms are molding in the storage closet. They have dehumidifiers running down there. It's been an ongoing issue that nobody seems to be able to come up with a solution. So what I did was I contacted person that I know from previous business endeavors. It was about spray foam, and asked him, told him what the situation was as far as water coming through the bricks. If we were to have it spray foamed, would that stop the water? And he said, no problem. If you had a clean substrate, meaning clean brick, that spray foam would adhere to that, and you'd have no moisture issues after. So he came in, he gave me a ballpark idea of what it would take to put an inch of spray foam on all the exterior walls running down the whole length of the building. Parts of the areas down there have been stub walled over and sheetrocked, and a couple of them you can notice the black mold growing on the bottom, the sheetrock's deformed, the paint's deformed from the moisture coming through the wall. That when they built the walls, they basically just kind of hid the problem, but over time, that problem is starting to permeate through the sheetrock. We would have to tear those walls out, bring it back to the brick. So I contacted a sandblasting guy, because it had to be clean brick, and he said, yeah, you could sandblast it, but I'd have to, because of the age of the building, test it for lead. Had a company come in, it tested positive for lead. So, again, I had to go through the state website, found a lead remediation company, a couple of them, and I think, you know, they were this one company, he gave me a price of almost $49,000 to remediate all the paint, all the way down through, with us doing all the demolition of the sheetrock and the studs and that sort of thing, so that they had bare brick wall to work with. It's about 1,000 square feet, round numbers, 1,100 square feet of wall that would have to be remediated before they could spray foam it. So my plan was that, once it was spray foamed, I'd strap it, top, bottom, and middle. They'd put an inch of spray foam, which would solve the moisture problem, also help with a little bit of insulation, and then re-sheet rock all the walls right down through and finish them off and tape them on them. We'd have to do it in stages because part of it's sleeping area, the guys are sleeping in, so, we'd have to do a couple rooms at once, and then those guys would have to relocate somewhere else to probably, I don't know where you guys would think, but probably the office areas out front for a period of time till spray foam's done, the sheet rock's done, and then they can move back in there, and we'd have to go to the next series of rooms and have the lead all remediated, spray foamed, and so on. So, the spray foam was $8,500 to do an inch spray foam down the entire length of the building, including the back wall, in the back alleyway up to the bathroom. And then I figured, because it's just my time, but about $5,000 in materials for sheetrock, pressure treated 2x for strapping, fasteners, mud tape, paint, trim, that sort of thing. Questions? Yes,
So you
ma'am.
have to blast it down, you can't just spray foam on top of the,
Paint peels off, spray foam won't stick. So if you want to have a good adhesion, you have to have that clean substrate for a spray foam to get in there and seal to. The paint's all peeling off the wall. These guys, if you take a walk down there, stuff is growing on the brick. The paint that's on it's all coming off. The captain's room, there was stuff all over the floor from the paint coming off the walls. Same in the back, because it's basically the captain's office, and the back 2 bedrooms are bare brick. The other 2 middle bedrooms have been studded in sheetrock along with the front area. So again, those areas are basically just covering up the problem with sheetrock, but wherever there's exposed brick, there's water. I mean, stuff growing, orange stuff growing on the wall. And again, the closet in the captain's office, which is the storage closet, I believe, for spare uniforms and things like that, they showed me back when I first started, they had stuff in there that was all molded just from the moisture in there. And I think Daryl could probably talk to it more than I can as far as the conditions down there, because they live there, not me.
We have the closet that you're referring to, it was a mold issue, so we have since, now that we're upstairs here, using the old police department space, we have moved those clothing items up here, which has helped. It hasn't alleviated the issue, but at least the clothing isn't as moldy. So that's good. And the reason the back rooms are needing to be addressed now is they never used to be bedrooms. It's as we've expanded, we've had to expand into those areas just to have sleeping quarters, so it becomes more of a problem.
I might add that the real problem is we need a new fire station.
Well, I mean,
This is a 90-year-old building,
yeah.
and I'm not advocating for wasting money and spending money and all of that stuff, but last year, I went to Brunswick, and I think I may have shared this with some of you, and looked at a new 26,000 square foot fire department that was $13.2 million, including the acquisition of the property on Route 1 in Brunswick. It was not Taj Mahal, it was warehouse flooring, but it was very, very functional. I don't know how to define function of a fire department, but they took me through the whole thing. And when I see $100,000 this year, and $100,000 next year, and $100,000 this year, all as patch jobs, might be something to consider.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly, just, you know, my limited exposure of what they've got down there, it's been what I can tell, it's been a Band-Aid job over a Band-Aid job where, and then, you know, the guys doing, the fire guys themselves doing a lot of it because, you know, it needed it, there was no money to do it, you know, they did a lot of the small stuff themselves and even some of the bigger things years past and even today. You know, it's down there the other day and one of the cabinet doors fell off, you know, in the kitchen.
How they fought fires 90 years ago when this space was built, it must be a lot different than today.
So it's, but this is, in my opinion, for now, it's the best worst option, short of tearing up the whole front of the building and all the hardscape and the granite steps and digging it all out, getting drainage hooked. I mean, that would be hundreds of thousands of dollars to do all of that.
Well, it goes back to the first item you discussed of the electrical. That should have been done at the renovations in '99, and it wasn't. So we're trying to catch up.
Sounds like there's a lot of catching up happening.
That's my point.
Or being
is-
proposed.
And I'm not saying it's not need to be done. My point is this, is that you continue to put money into a facility that's not proper to run the department. That's my thing. If that wasn't a fire department down there, it might not need some of this stuff.
Right.
Fair?
It's why we have to specially design fire trucks to fit in the space, because it's small. And that costs money.
It was probably great, 1970, 1980, you know, but as things progress, restrictions, mandates that the fire department have to adhere to, different things that we all have to adhere to, electrical codes and that sort of thing. You know, again, the biggest thing that, back to the electrical part, I can't touch the breaker box, meaning the electrician. If we do, we have to bring it up to code. And that would be way more expensive because the code is updated, there's no arc fault breakers and that sort of thing, and there's no space in that breaker to run a sub panel or break out enough panels to feed the 5 fire trucks individually. So,
Rearranging the chairs on the Titanic doesn't always work.
no, the chairs still don't float.
I'm not against doing it, I'm just saying longer-term views here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You can't just keep.
But this work that you're talking about, even if we did move the fire department out of there, we would put something down there, and so that needs to be done, because whoever goes down there, or offices, or whatever we end up doing with that space, because it is a good space, it's just not a great space for the fire department. We can't have mold and lead paint down there,
No.
and having people's
I
offices
mean,
and things, so.
the cheap remediation.
It needs to be done anyway.
The cheap remediation for the lead paint is to cover it, which is totally legal and acceptable. The problem that we have is we can't cover it because we want to spray foam it to stop the moisture.
So you can't cover it and then spray foam over the covering?
No, because it'll peel,
It'll peel.
and then the foam will come off. Now you've lost.
No, I mean, like, cover it with some kind of a material. You know what I mean? Instead of sandblasting it all out, cover it with some kind of material.
I mean, like there's really.
I mean, something non-wood, obviously, but,
Yeah.
you know, is there a material that you could cover it with and then go through sheet rock and?
Yeah.
And then you
It
get
won't
moisture
stop the
between
moisture from
the
coming through.
ironwood. We're gonna have moisture
break
anyway,
in there.
even, you're gonna have moisture underneath that strap, even once you, between that barrier that he's talking about. There's always gonna be moisture there, because it's underground, but.
Well, there's gonna be moisture, but that spray foam being adhered to the brick is gonna prevent that. That's gonna be your ultimate barrier, the spray
Right.
foam. And then that'll stop the moisture from coming through into the bricks. It's gonna basically be a dam and hold the moisture outside.
That's all right.
So can we dive into that a little bit further? Because I'm listening to this about the inside of the building. And the problem is the upgrades or everything that's out front. But I'm concerned about the structural integrity of the wall. If all we're doing is stopping the moisture from coming into the building, it's still permeating the building. And you just said something about a way to stop it on the outside with a dam.
On the inside, the
the
spray foam
inside.
acts like a dam.
Okay,
to
so
prevent the
I'm
moisture
back
from
to the
coming through.
structural integrity of the building. If we still have moisture coming in from all of the landscaping directly onto the brick building?
Mhm. you have that in any structure that has a
Okay.
below-ground foundation, although concrete is not as porous
Right.
as brick. And then you have perimeter drains, stone and pipe,
Which
that
this doesn't.
this doesn't.
So do we have structural issues with the front of this building? That is, a symptom of it is the moisture's coming all the way through.
The only issues structural issues that we have is the front steps. And that's just because of the granite that separated it over the years and haven't been rechinked, for lack of a better term.
Right.
And
So
it
the
just
fact
sit on
that there's moisture against the brick that's coming through isn't a problem on the outside of the
No,
building?
it doesn't seem to be bothering, there's no structural damage inside, there's no heaving of the bricks that I've noticed
Okay.
anywhere in the foundation.
Well, there,
Underground.
so that's good news.
So, I mean, and it's been 90, 100 years, but it's 3-4 layers deep, thick, the wall, brick wall.
This is all great stuff. I just don't want to be having this conversation 10 years from now.
I don't think they're opposed to what you're saying. I don't think that's the
Me neither.
evidence.
He's coming
No.
back next.
Maybe in 10
year.
years, we'll have a new fire station, we won't be having this conversation.
I
Yes,
just
you will,
hate,
because someone else will be down there.
well, that may be true, but you don't need electrical plant, I mean, we got a 90-year-old building here, and probably it was designed for 60.
Well, all of that was redone in 99, 2000.
So a couple of the bedrooms were done.
Yeah,
that he-
and,
that
but I
he
mean,
spoke-
the electrical, because this thing was completely gutted.
It was.
And it was
Matter
all
of
new
fact-
electrical, all new plumbing,
The floor was lowered.
the floor,
Um,
yeah.
The ventilation system was, it worked at the time, but we can't use that anymore.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it was actually, at that point, it was pretty impressive. It's just, it's been 23 years and we've grown.
It was probably state of the art at the time.
Yeah, yeah, in 2000.
But that, again, I want to get back to my point, digging out a floor and lowering the floor of a building because it's not modern enough for the fire engines that need to be fighting the fires today. I wonder about that.
Yeah. There's new things coming too, like clean rooms. That
I
we,
saw 'em.
that I don't know how we're gonna get around that if that becomes an OSHA thing, but it's coming.
Okay.
Looking at how to pay for this, do we get to the point where we talk about, is there any grant funding for this kind of, this is employee health, this is serious. We've listened to the magic that happens about coming up with money in different places, and I don't know if we've had time to explore that with this.
There's the remaining ARPA, which Anne's gonna go over at the end here. I know it's not necessarily final designated, that's not what this conversation's about today, but there's top line, 400,000 in there. I know
Right.
the ventilation system, which I think Fire's presenting at their next capital thing, that's also, so.
But is there some kind of either state or federal funding specific for this kind of work?
How about that? I could talk to the chief.
Historic building?
Yeah, I think there's part of that, it's, 2035, we're getting to 100 years old here, and there's a bunch of that. We're talking to FEMA on Thursday on some of the cupola issues, and they'll pay for 70% of remediation to kind of, or mediation to get it back, like, to build it better for the next storm. But, hey, does that really count? We've had some leaks in there and other things, so, we'll see if that can be used.
Matt looks like he's ready to roll on this.
For
Never go
lead
back.
remediation, I did
Massive
research this when Jim first brought the issue up. Most of the funding for lead-specific projects is for residential programs, or not for municipal. The kind of vibe is that if it's municipal or government, it should have been done, a long time ago. When there
Not
was
disagreeing with
a lot of
that.
funding available, but I didn't really look into just historic specific. I know like with the jail, they have to do lead remediation across the street. And they went through some congressionally delegated funding to
Right,
do
right.
that project, because again of a lack of lead-based like remediation, funding. But, yeah, ARPA, maybe potentially FEMA could look at that too if it's damage caused by.
Well, if it's moisture and we're talking about excessive water events,
Right.
I would straight face that argument.
And then just, climate resilience could also tie
Yeah.
into it, so looking at something like that.
I'd love a way to be able to take care of it. using funds that are available specifically for this kind of work.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear if FEMA would be interested in that.
Talking Thursday? And we just mentioned FEMA, so we can also use an hour of time. No, I think we also do charge employee time, and they were very specific on that, on the work that we do prepare these things and that stuff, so maybe I'll give it 30 seconds.
FEMA. Good, that's intriguing.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim.
All right.
Bye, Mike.
All right, so I'm not sure what you have, I don't think you have it, so I'm giving you this in reverse order, so when I start
Thanks.
presenting, it's gonna be more.
Oh, wonderful.
We have a waste.
Well, we have
We have this. Is this what?
You should have more than that.
I want the picture of the truck.
Well, yeah, but
Here, give us the whole, that whole,
well, that's okay, but these
yeah,
are.
I know, but there you go.
That's TIF.
That's gonna be the bottom.
Yep, that's the bottom.
Was that a Seca Eco 900?
It's complete with front yard debris.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have a debris bar, it's at least 12
You're
yards.
so not gonna have a short meeting.
Okay.
I used to work at hazardous waste.
Isn't that what we do?
Oh, yeah. You make it and you clean it up.
All right, let's rock and roll. Mike Harris, Ellsworth wastewater superintendent. So I have 3 capital projects that I'm presenting to you tonight. The first project that I'm presenting to you is we would like to replace 2 of our pickup trucks and lease new pickup trucks to replace them. One of the trucks is Chevy 2500 HD we have currently. That particular truck has 51,980 miles on it. It's a plow truck, it's 2018 as I mentioned. So we would replace that in the lease with a Ford F-250, also a plow truck. And the monthly lease payment, as you can see on the enterprise contract down towards the bottom, probably the 3rd line from the bottom, $1,062 a month, which is roughly $12,000 and change for the yearly lease purchase price. And then the second vehicle that I'm looking at is a 2014 Ford F-150 that we have. That's only a 2-wheel drive, and it's only a 6-cylinder engine in it. It's pretty much useless in the wintertime, and it's showing a lot of age. The current mileage on that truck is 43,962 miles. I had pictures in the package for you guys, but I wasn't gonna copy all that tonight to pass around. So if anybody wants pictures of the condition of the vehicles, I can give them to you. We did, so the 2500 is eligible for trade-in, but Adam has expressed interest in possibly bringing that over to the highway. So we haven't worked that piece out yet, but if we do trade in, the trade-in value is roughly $22,000 that we could use to go towards the lease. So.
You said it's only 54,000 miles on it? And it's in that bad a shape?
The Chevy 2500 is not in terrible shape. The F-250, F-150, which only has 43,000 miles on it, is in really bad shape. And I can show you the pictures of the F-150.
What year is that? What year is that?
2014. It's 10 years
Oh,
old.
it's 10 years old.
Yeah, I mean, he's got pictures of the Ford right there. I've got them in the
Why is it in
book.
such bad shape?
10 years of winters in Maine. I mean, you'll see it, it's right there.
No, I know, I'm just wondering why it's,
Plow guys putting all the salt on the road.
Yeah, and so the funny thing about it is,
Public.
and I don't know if most people realize this, but if you look at that picture
Used hard.
of the
God, what do they do to
fender,
these things?
the ditch side of your vehicle takes more of a beating than the centerline side of your vehicle. And that's evident with that particular truck. The driver's side of that vehicle shows nearly no rust as opposed to the ditch side of that vehicle, the passenger side of that vehicle is is in really
What
rough
to put in
shape.
this truck?
Some wolves?
Yeah, that's from getting in and out of the truck all the time. There are fabric seats, and so for 10 years, when people slide in and out of trucks, it eats the seat up.
And there was sandpaper pants.
I don't drive that truck.
Imagine, he looked
What do
like he
they
was
have in their
dancing on that
pockets when they go
seat.
in there?
Yeah, I don't drive that truck.
Spurs in the cab.
Holy cow, that's awful.
I don't come and ask for stuff unless it's,
I know, but holy cow.
There.
Wait till you get to that suction truck, you're gonna,
The suction truck, I understand, I mean, a truck with only 40,000 miles on it.
and
I
so
understand
also
why it's
the
in
other
such bad
reason I'm
shape.
looking at the 2,500 with this ask, Michelle, is I'd like to keep them all in the same cycle. So, instead of having the lease is staggered and say, okay, this lease is up this year, and this lease is up this year, and this lease is up this year. If we start them all in the same cycle every 5 years, then we know that we're in that cycle. So for budgeting purposes, you know what your amounts are for the next 5 years, and it's all the same for each capital budget for the next 5 years. So that's also part of the ask. I have a third truck, but I'm not, we just got it last year, so I'm not obviously wanting to do anything with that.
Is there trade-in value on that one, on the 150?
He didn't give me one on it. I can
I
ask
can't
him,
imagine.
because it's pretty, I think we'd be better off just to put it out for auction.
Probably get more money for it.
That's what I'm saying.
But the 250, Adam, you can use? It's
why,
in good shape.
so,
It's in decent shape.
so
I still understand.
if Adam can use it, why can't you use it?
It's not that I can't use it. That's not what I'm saying here. The F-150 is in bad shape. The 2,500 is not in really bad shape. But like I said, I would like to keep the lease cycles similar. So if I'm gonna do the lease, I'd rather just lease them both, have Adam take the 2,500, and then every 5 years, we're all in the same cycle.
If you take that, will that save you from having to purchase a truck for a while? Do you have one that you need to?
replace Marion's old pickup with that one.
With that one? And if not that, then you'd have to lease a vehicle?
Yeah. We're gonna be down though if we don't.
If you don't, okay. I just feel kind of bad that,
That wasn't my idea.
I didn't want to spend any money, so that was my volunteer, I volunteered to take,
Just one thing to think about, when you put everything on the same cycle, you're running 4-year-old trucks across your whole fleet that year.
right,
Yeah, I mean, the two trucks.
Stagger
yeah.
them, and you get,
you always have one that's in good shape.
right,
So-
you don't have that high-end problem in year 4, if they're staggered.
Yeah.
I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But you don't want everything all brand new that doesn't run, and you don't want everything that's all wore out that doesn't run.
Yeah, and one of the factors that I was thinking about in terms of exactly what you're expressing now is, if this was like a 7, 8, 10-year lease, then I wouldn't try and put everything on the same lease cycle. But 4 years, you see the mileage on the trucks.
I guess I'm asking too, is why don't you do longer leases? You don't put any miles on these trucks.
This is the lease program that was set up by the city.
Well, that's because that was police department vehicles, and they'll have 100,000 miles at the end
Right,
of 5 years.
so
Why don't you do a
what I
longer
can tell you
lease?
is, I always bought the truck. So the
Yeah.
new truck I got, we just paid outright for it last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then the lease program started. Reggie leased a couple of trucks. Adam's leased, have you leased one? You leased a truck. And, of course, and then the police department leased a bunch of vehicles. And it was all through this exact same thing that you're looking at. So I would have no problem going with a different lease. I just took information that was provided to me from Sean and said, hey, here's the guy you talked to at Enterprise. Tell him what you have going on, and he'll give you the information for your lease, and that's what I passed on to you.
I mean, I guess I would look into a longer-term lease
I'm fine with that.
and see if it might be less expensive per year.
Yep.
It just seems $1,000 a month for 5 years, and you've only got less than 50,000 miles on it. You're only putting 10,000 miles a year on those things. That's not, the police department puts about 20,000 miles a
Mhm.
year. I can see why they did 5 years, but,
To just speak to that comment, it's certainly worth asking the question.
Sure.
But don't forget, these lease payments are driven by residual values. And residual values, lease companies have figured out exactly.
And
when
it's,
they have
it's,
money.
Yeah.
it's
But your-
actually,
your
it's on that
depreciation happens
paperwork.
on the front end, not the back
The
end.
reduced book value at 60 months is listed on the line items there. So for the F-250, F-150, reduced book value at 60 months is $8,357. That's the reduction that, I guess you'd call it the devaluation or the
That's how much.
depreciation.
They're saying it's only gonna be worth $8,000 after.
No, I
5
think
years?
that it reduces the book value of the truck. So the truck's original
Oh,
value
okay,
is
yeah.
43,986. I think what they're saying is at the end of the lease program, it'll reduce the book value of that truck $8,357. So it'll have depreciated from 43 minus 8,357, whatever that number is. Roughly
That's surprising.
35,000.
I would just ask the question because your depreciation on a vehicle happens on the front end, not the back end. So once it depreciates a certain point, it doesn't depreciate that.
Hey, I am all for it, because I would rather just buy it. But
Well, I'm
everybody
just
was talking about
thinking-
going to the lease program, so I'm like, okay, well, then this is what I want to lease. But
I just think the
I would,
residual
I
value is
would
gonna be.
prefer to put it out to bid and get a bid and buy the damn truck. And not have to worry about paying for it every year, but when the lease program came in front of you guys for the police department, and I remember Dale Hamilton's exact words when he said, why wouldn't we do this?
But that's because they're such high, there's no value to them after 5 years because they're 100,000
No,
mile cars.
yeah, I get that, but what I'm saying is, then everybody else started leasing vehicles, and so I'm just I was just following that
And
trend.
and it helps the capital. It's not leasing versus purchasing. It's just how much you're paying a month for a vehicle that's gonna, an F-250 is should have a lot of value at the end.
Sure.
Of only 5 years because you don't have a lot of mileage.
Right.
And if you don't wreck it,
Right.
it'll be,
I don't know what
that.
she was pointing at over there, but.
no, that picture that you
Story,
gave me.
yeah.
I mean, if you take care of it, it's got a lot of value at the end. And so
Yeah.
sometimes leasing isn't the best answer if you have low mileage and you've got a vehicle that you could keep.
I'm not
10
quite sure about
years.
what they do to their vehicles, though.
Yeah, no, I
Doesn't
mean,
seem like
Well,
they
there's
have
no,
too
I
much-
don't understand what that, and
Yeah,
I
that's
understand winter
concerning.
salt, but
Like,
wash
can
it
you do
and you won't have winter salt. But,
Yeah.
and that's 10 years old and
And if we leased the car, you brought it back like
yeah,
that, I'm
that's,
not quite sure
that,
what
the
it'd
F,
be.
the F-150 is 10 years old.
Yeah.
As Adam can tell, the 2,500 is in better shape.
Yeah, but at 10 years, if you have $1,000 a month, so you have $12,000 a
A year,
year.
yeah.
In 10 years, you've paid $120,000 for that vehicle.
You're preaching to the choir here, Michelle.
I know, so sometimes leasing doesn't make sense.
Okay, I'll put it in the bond.
Because of the
I'm
value.
good with that.
We'll bring
No,
that back for,
no, just check out both, is what I'm saying, is check out both and
Okay,
see how
so
much you're paying
just so
for
I'm
it.
clear, look at a longer lease term,
And see
right?
if it, see if it works.
and then talk to, say, 3 dealerships, and ask them to quote me on what the replacement cost of those vehicles would be
Yeah,
as a traditional straightforward purchase.
I think you just should do both,
Okay.
because of how much you're gonna be paying,
Yeah, no, I'm cool with that.
So I have a
because you're gonna pay $60,000 for this vehicle after 5 years,
Yeah,
so,
like I said, I was just rolling on the lease train.
Yeah.
If you don't wanna roll on the lease train, I'll roll off the lease train.
All your friends jumped off a bridge.
I'm just like,
A bigger question that I would have is, I'll get back to, if you decide what you need, that's one thing. But if we're just trying to get on cycles, maybe you need to be shopping for one truck, not 2.
no, that's what I would do.
yeah.
And,
I would look to replace the F-150 and wait on the 2,500.
okay, and certainly explorations is one thing, but leasing a truck to get it on the same cycle and then giving it to another department, I struggle with that.
Because honestly, my thought process was the same as a lot of people's thought process was, if you buy, say, the F-150 outright, you're probably gonna pay 50 grand, roughly. Somewhere in that range, probably between $40,000 and $50,000, right? So you're gonna pay that all at once, it's gonna hit your cap all at once. If you bought the 2,500, whatever the bid price is gonna be, it's probably gonna be around $60,000. And then the plow and everything attached to it. So that's gonna be the hit to your capital budget in 1 year, is gonna be the 60 or 70,000. So then you look at, well, if you spend 50,000 in this budget, in your capital cycle, then that's money fronted and you own the truck. Or you spend 24,000 in 5 capital cycles and you get 2 trucks. And they're both brand new, ordered from the factory. So that's part of the thought process that was going into that. Because if we go and buy trucks outright, typically we haven't been able to order them because the lead time from the factories has been so screwed up. And so we've been taking what's on lots that people are willing to give us bids on. And that's what we've been, that's why my truck is different from Adam's truck, is different from Reggie's truck. Because it's whatever the dealers decide that they want to put forward through the bid process.
To speak to that a little bit, I think that's a different environment now. I ordered 2 3,500 series GMC pickups in July, and they were here in October.
Yeah, no, I mean,
So I think that's a different process today than it was 18 months ago.
yeah.
But also, I do have a question, and I'm a lease guy. I believe in the lease. I believe in preserving the capital. But I do struggle in the government sector. In the private sector, when you lease, it's off balance sheet, it's not capital. So how does the lease payment hit the capital and not an operating budget?
Yeah.
It goes in debt.
I'm sorry?
It goes in debt. Yeah,
It's just debt.
yeah. So which is balance sheet.
And typically, our instructions have been, when we do our budgets, anything that's over a $10,000 purchase is most likely a capital purchase.
But if you're paying for it monthly, that's what I'm asking
Yeah,
that
you're
question.
renting instead of buying.
Yeah, yeah,
But she's
so-
saying there's a debt equivalent.
Yeah.
I guess
And that's how
over the
government
year,
works.
you're over 10 grand.
And we would have paid,
You're just-
even though there's a
like,
monthly
put it-
payment, we
You
would have
got a
just
long-term
paid it
obligation
one
to
time
pay 5 years.
for the whole year.
It's also end of year when you're doing
We would have paid the $12,000 payment at July, or whenever the truck was arrived, we'd have just paid the whole lease for the year. Same thing with the other truck. We wouldn't have every month had finance shipping out the checks for the 1,000.
Please repeat.
So if we were to do the lease, right, so it calls out that the lease payment is $1,062 a month on the F-250. We would have just paid the whole 12,000, the whole 1-year lease as one lump sum. That's why it's capital. That's why I thought it was capital.
It's a year budget cycle.
yeah.
Why,
Not
when we're in a
operational,
cash
but-
freeze, do we prepay bills?
We're not in a cash freeze.
We were.
You're on a budget freeze for most of the year.
Yeah,
Why would
So-
we prepay a bill? That just drives me crazy.
we were on a spending freeze.
So, but back to this, what's the, so do you have value in this when you're done?
yeah.
And then what happens?
We either keep it or we trade it in on the next lease.
And then
we
you
get
use that value to reduce the,
Yeah. Yep, so if the truck's in good shape at the end of the 5 years, either we have the option to retain ownership of it, or they'll give us the trade-in value on that truck towards our next lease. So if you have the F-250, you buy the F-250, and at the end of the lease, that F-250's got $35,000 resale value, say, then that gets calculated into your next 5-year lease payment as a credit. That's the way I understand it. And
the
so,
police department's
so if
not
you
always-
really end up taking good care of the vehicles, which, other than the F-150 that's 10 years old, 5 years ago, it wouldn't have been in that bad a shape.
so are your plows just gonna be transferred to this, or do you need new plows?
They just come with a truck as part of the lease.
Oh, they do?
So if.
'Cause they wouldn't do that
So
for the
what
police department.
typically happens is if we were to trade in the 2,500, the plow and the truck and everything would go. Right? That's what happened with you. And then when you got your new truck, the plow came with it, but it was screwed up and you had to reorder it, or something like that. Correct? All right, so what happened?
So I ordered a truck with the push plates and kept an old plow.
Okay.
It's all extra, it's all added on. The lease is for just the truck, all the additional stuff is out of our operating.
Oh, no, yeah, so if you look, well, you don't have, I don't know if you have the budget request page, but The first year payment, I put 34,000, 24,000 for the lease payment, 10,000 for the plow and accessories. And then the next 4 years were the 24,000.
I don't want to prevent Adam from getting a truck, because he's, how old is Martin's old truck? Like 2000? Yeah. that's-
Oh, my goodness. How many miles does that have?
It's gonna be vintage next year.
I mean, honestly, there's been a change in philosophy with the city in the last 2 years. Like, before what happened with the police and the leasing and that whole program coming up, we always just did the traditional bid, lowest bid, buy the truck, carry the debt, it's done. The sole purpose for me going in this direction was because that's what I felt the city wanted to do in general, is take advantage of the lease program and reduce the upfront cost of capital budget. So I'm more than happy to go the other direction.
I just think it's a matter of, I mean, all you are is taking out a loan for that.
You're financing.
For that, yeah, because you're gonna pay $60,000 for this F-250, and you're just gonna pay it out over time,
Yep, I agree.
which is
The base
really
price of the F-250 is $54,229.
Right, so you're just taking a loan and paying interest.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
I don't know if there's any difference.
Just one comment about that. Don't forget, you're dealing with merchandising magic, okay? Nobody does it better than a lease company. That's why you rent a brand-new car when you rent a car when you go on vacation, and they have got that figured out to turn that car at certain mileage to enhance the turnover,
Yeah.
lower their cost, and they have figured all markets out, and they study markets like no other, which makes it affordable for the consumer. Otherwise, explain to me why a rental company would have, why don't they run 5-year cars? Because they are merchandising masters. They have figured out the market. And it's not just one rental company, it's all of them.
And one of the things I would point out too is these vehicles, if we went in this direction, would be ordered directly from the factory. And that's why you see that price. If we go out to bid and, which I have no problem doing, I don't know that you'll get an F-250 for 54 grand.
Well, 60.
Yeah, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it could come back at 65.
So maybe we'll get some other quotes and get some numbers in front of folks, and then we can make some decisions. And I think there is yeah, it's like, you kind of want it to be a hard rule. Okay, we're gonna lease, and we're gonna get the standard thing,
Yeah,
we're
that's
gonna
what
buy,
I'm
and
like,
whether it's the police station or Avery and this, and it's always kind of individual and kind of what the needs of the department, but have given some options for the next round of the budget, we'll make sure they're there.
Great.
All right, so we'll explore those options. All right, so we good there? On to the next. So the next project that's in front of you guys is the major service to our dewatering centrifuge. We do this every 3 years. We have the vendor come up, go through the whole machine, replace parts, make sure there's no issues in the machine. Because it's very critical, we only have one machine, we have no redundant backup. And so, the quote on that, which you should have, I gave to you, is 28. I put a little extra on there because every time they've come up, there's been, last time they did it, it was a major expenditure, but the time before that, there was a couple odds and ends stuff that they didn't have that we needed for the centrifuge, and so it was 28,650.97. So I put it at 30,000 because, like, you know, time before, we had to take something to Glenn and down at CNC and have him do some machine work on it and things like that. But the exact quote is what you'll see in front of you, is $28,650.97. And this is something, like I said, we do this on a 3-year cycle. Every 3 years, we have them come up and do a major service on the machine. Trying to protect the investment. And it's a revenue maker.
A lot of parts.
Yeah, no, they tear it down to the frame and go through it.
The dewatering centrifuge is a revenue maker because it allows us to accept waste from other places.
Yeah, that revenue stream was roughly 450,000 last year, and next year it's gonna be I'm projecting around 475,000, depending on what we do with the rates.
30,000 every 3 years seems pretty.
Yeah, and we did the cost analysis, because Steve was questioning, whether or not it was actually worth taking the product, and I think Wood and Kern's number came out to roughly $107,000 profit after all the overhead. So it's a significant revenue.
I'm encouraged to see something where we're actually maintaining according to recommendations.
Yep.
Instead of neglecting something, like you said, is as important as this without a backup.
Yep.
I do have a general question for the wastewater department and water, they do generate revenue, right, through the customers. For the capital improvement side of things, do we take, I know basically the rule is if something costs more than $10,000, it's considered a capital improvement, and we deal with it like that, but is there a way that we account for departments that have the revenue coming in, like the water and sewer do?
So we're supposed to be enterprise funds,
Yeah.
which means our user fees and stuff are supposed to be separate from the general fund.
Okay, so this
And-
is general fund, separate from enterprise fund?
I don't believe it.
No, his capital
Because if
comes
you
out of his
look
own
at
budget.
my
It comes out of his
appropriation
own-
budget that I gave you,
see them, you guys are down
Yeah.
in
your
your
Yeah.
own separate section.
my
Their
appropriations
capital.
budget included the capital,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Patrick,
and my revenues captured the capital.
there's a spreadsheet that shows them separate,
Oh, I didn't get that.
It's the long one.
Did you take?
along with the green.
It's a longie with a green stripe.
Capital requests fiscal year 2025, it's got city requests, then water, then wastewater separate.
See how you are.
Steve, you're hollering.
Steve did not share, apparently.
I thought I handed them all along.
This
How
is,
did you get one if you don't share?
I don't know.
She said she grabbed it on her way down.
There's a tad bit of chaos going on here with papers.
I guess so.
So, okay, so
You want me
the,
to give one to
okay.
Charlie?
The general tax base, the users.
Start going like this.
What else do you want?
I think it's good. Sorry, we're getting a little punchy.
so I guess my
We're not-
question
you
still
don't have
though
to,
is, maybe I think it's probably because I'm just not I'm missing it, but, so total city requests, then we get to water, total water request for this year, but we're talking wastewater, so here's the wastewater, 100,333, correct? That's the vehicles, the centrifuge truck, centrifuge service, and the truck we're gonna talk about. That's $100,000 requesting out of the capital improvements. But that money is being paid out of the wastewater budget. And that budget has both their income and cost as a part of that.
Right.
So here is the projected revenue for wastewater.
Yeah, and you gave that to us
Yes, I
already.
did.
Yeah, so we've looked,
And then when you look at the appropriations page, what the projected spending is, you'll see the capital improvement.
so the capital improvement this has already been accounted for that. Okay, so this is more of just like, because it's over $10,000, we deal with it separately, but it's also incorporated into the total.
Yeah.
Yeah, his capital though, if he ends up leasing those trucks, that comes out of capital and goes into his regular expense budget.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, I missed that.
If you lease those, it's no longer a capital expenditure, it's a lease, it's
Yeah.
debt. So it comes out of your capital and goes into your regular budget.
But it's all still under the
Yes.
enterprise.
It's still under the enterprise.
Yeah, and
but
all
you
the debt
won't-
service is also captured in the appropriations that I just showed you.
Right, so
All the
your,
debt service.
your actual capital would be 66,000.
So, and then, I guess, so for every department, it's similar, right? We're looking at just capital improvements, capital costs, but this is all also accounted for in their budgets as well. This just allows us to, basically, we're talking about big spending.
Yeah.
This is the big spending session. Okay.
Yeah, it's not ongoing, so like the reason the lease is going up into his regular budget is because it's an ongoing monthly expense. These are like one-time.
The big one-time.
Yeah, one-time
Okay.
purchases.
And so if we did the traditional purchase, it would be captured on the capital and then,
Your capital will go up.
yeah.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
Maybe
me.
another way to
Thank you.
say it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, would be anything with a life value over 1 year goes into capital.
That's true.
Yeah.
That'd be another
Yeah.
fair way to say
That's
it.
the
So in other
accounting rule.
words,
It's helpful.
I'm sorry?
That's the accounting rule.
Right,
legal.
I mean, so if
Perspective.
the centrifuge repair is good for 3 years, then that hits the
Yeah, I mean, if you
capital
bought a
component.
desk, that's not capital. That's furniture and fixtures that,
But the test lasts for more than 1 year.
I know, but it's not capital.
Exceptions to the rule.
It's, yeah, it's
You use
office
desk pretty hard.
expenditures, it's furniture and things like that, but.
Wastewater.
But
destroy that.
just to reiterate Patrick's question, for all the departments, whether they're enterprise or not enterprise, everything we're gonna hear about in this capital budget is also in their individual budgets.
No,
No,
it's in the capital budget.
Yeah.
the city has a capital
I
budget.
figured it out.
Yeah.
So, the city has a capital budget, but wastewater and water's capital expenditures are not part of the capital budget.
Right.
Correct.
They're part of their own budget.
So-
Exactly.
Their own fund.
If you look
So
at your
there's-
front thing,
Yeah.
your front thing, isn't that,
Okay.
I am,
I know what you meant.
yeah. You've got your municipal, all the different departments, and then you've got capital improvements.
Yeah,
So it's separated from what's in the, it's not an operating expense. That's the best way to say it. It's a purchase. It's not an operating expense. So it's right here.
okay,
And so
yeah,
it's separated out.
okay, so
from regular
everything
budgets.
except, but those capital improvements do not include water or wastewater. In
Right.
this-
Right.
In this line.
Correct, yeah.
Then, those are the only two departments
Because-
that applies to.
Right, because they don't, or not supposed to, enterprise funds, so they don't,
Exactly.
you don't use tax dollars
Yeah,
to run
no,
them.
that all makes sense to me. Okay, that's very helpful.
Use the services pay for them.
Yeah, I kind of know.
I mean, we do help, like the water department, we pay for the hydrants, and we do some other stuff to help make it profitable. But
Other people can use the hydrants.
Yeah, so you guys pay a water
within the
bill,
water,
but you don't pay a
yeah,
sewer
within
bill.
the,
If there's a fire.
But they're different.
Just
it's
so you know.
public safety.
Yeah.
No city buildings pay sewer
My
bills.
gift to you.
They pay water bills, they don't pay sewer bills. We pay a water bill.
Which is wrong, because that
That's
would
why I'm
be,
bringing it up.
that would be a great
That's
thing
another
for-
story.
Because we talk about them not being profitable, but, I mean, we also don't pay.
Like if we got
Wastewater.
sewer bills from the schools,
And then taxation would be helping anyway, but we don't, which is one of the reasons why I'm usually like,
yeah, no, I'm just
Because
saying.
they
I brought it
run
up
in the
multiple
red.
times before.
Part of
our
that is
fault.
because of our fault, okay.
yeah.
Well, we're subsidizing. Essentially.
Well, one's PUC regulated and one's not.
Correct.
Yep, that's why we don't, yep, you have to pay a water bill, you have no choice.
So there are a lot of taxpayers in Ellsworth that don't benefit from wastewater.
Oh, they do. You have a downtown, you have all of these businesses
Sure,
that you don't
yes.
have.
Indirectly benefit, but not directly.
Sure, yeah. It's the same reason why we pay for fire hydrants, and we
Yeah.
pay our water bills here.
Yeah. Okay.
Why could that not change?
It's been suggested multiple times in the past. It was suggested at one point, when Dave Cole was city manager. I think me and Michelle talked about it at some point when she was city manager.
I remember calculating it, it was crazy, like, I think it was like $500,000.
yes.
So, which would increase the mill rate on the
Right.
city side. by
So,
half a mil.
yeah, so which is, it's easier to let them run in the red sometimes than to do that and then put the $500,000 the taxpayers are gonna have to pay more by doing that than.
And not everybody does benefit from the wastewater.
Yeah, so I like
Yeah,
this
but
one.
it would be city buildings that would pay for it. So, I mean, that are owned by the taxpayers, but,
So you basically take from one, pay the other.
exactly. And it would probably be more expensive.
Yeah,
Like the school departments, and stuff, so.
yeah, I think their budget's bad now. Just checking.
You'd have all kinds of new trucks, Mike.
Mike, tell us about,
School buses.
well, do we have a presentation on the Seeker model?
They have to ride
going on?
the sewer department trucks to school.
Okay. All right, so, you know, I've asked for a back truck for a long time. It's different this time is now I have water
Friends.
and highway that
Don't get carried away.
are significantly interested in also the benefits of it. So I'm just gonna run through this really quick, it's not that long. And we're gonna do some breakdown of costs and stuff, and then at the end of it, you guys should have a full picture on what we're talking about.
Let's do it quick, Mike, adjust.
Oh, should I move
You're right,
that?
no, you can sit there, if you wanna sit down, just say, gotta move this over a little bit.
Sorry.
Oh, no, you're all right. There we go.
Mic check, mic check. I always wanna do that.
I guess they do water.
All right, so this is just a picture of a vac truck. This is what we're looking to purchase. So why do we need this piece of equipment? So I will preface this by saying, when I originally did this presentation, it was just for my department, and so I've edited some to include water and highway in it. But, so originally, so we own about 14 miles, we have 8 pump stations. Our permit that's issued by the DEP and administered by the EPA, and it's administered by the Maine DEP, says that we have to properly maintain our systems. Also, if we're not properly maintaining our system, the city then becomes liable for damage from a sewer backup, which was expensive. And the city's insurance company said, hey, you need to fix this or we are not going to cover you. The wastewater, water, and highway departments, we all have tasks that should be completed on a routine basis. Some of them don't get done because we don't have the budget to complete all the tasks. And so that'll, you know, we'll talk more about that. So there are 2 options available to achieve the proper maintenance of your system. In this case, it would be the city's systems. You can either purchase the back jetter or you can hire outside contractors to come in and do work for you. So in order to compare costs, I looked at the purchase price for the new truck and leasing options, as well as the operational costs, maintenance costs, and then we'll also look at the cost of contracting out the aforementioned maintenance tasks to the companies that we use. So the particular vehicle that we're talking about, so your packet, say 610,000, I called them to update the quote because the quote was a few months old and actually the price went down a little bit. So instead of 610, it comes in at 608. So now when we go forward, you're gonna see some financing and stuff. It's gonna be based on the 610 because the finance companies have not got back to me on the reduction in price, which I don't think is gonna move the needle a whole lot, but. So leasing options. So it's obviously shelling out 610,000 in one lump sum is a lot to ask. You'd probably be part of a bond of some sort. So, in talking with the manufacturers, they gave me some people to talk to about municipal leasing. Okay, so this company, NCL, actually works for the Sourcewell government contracts. So this is the numbers that they gave me. So the significant difference that you're gonna see here, which you may not have picked up, is obviously these are the different terms that you can go. So if you want to pay it off in 3 years, you're looking at $229,000. You go 5 years, you're looking at $144,000 a year. And then you go 7 years, you're looking at $108,000 a year. And then on this one, if you go 8 years, you're looking at $93,000. Now, the difference that you're going to see with these 2 options is if you do this option, you can defer the first payment for a year. So if we were to talk about actually wanting to move forward with purchasing the vac truck, this particular option would still allow us not to pay the first payment in this budget cycle. We could actually defer that payment to next year's budget cycle. So I just wanted to point that out because I know there's a lot going on in this budget cycle, not to say there won't be next year, but there's particularly a lot going on this year. So just to try and help mitigate that sum, we could defer the first payment.
First payment, but does it defer interest?
I would have to check. He just said we would defer the first payment for a year, and this is what the payment would be on the 7-year term starting next year.
So the 3-year term is 229, I'm trying to see that.
229, 735, 97, so 229, 736.
Yeah, I figured that all out.
And 5 years is 144. My old eyes cannot see this.
144, 413.
Thank you. 722.
And then the 7 years is 108, 623.
Should be 763,
763, 61, yeah.
Okay, so that's, and then if you wanted to pay the first payment this year, then your yearly payment is 93 instead of 108.
What is that, 90?
93, 762.
0.19.
So what number's on this spreadsheet, this capital request sheet?
That is this number divided by 3 for a third for me, a third for water, and a third for highway.
So you were looking at the 3-year?
I was looking at the 7-year with a 1-year deferred payment, but just for presentation purposes.
So would it?
We're not
would it-
locked into that or anything.
So 7 years, so are you gonna pay on it 6 years or 7 years?
7 years, but you don't start your first payment. So
So
we
you'll
could
have
buy
it
the
8
truck
years.
this year,
Okay,
but you wouldn't pay the first payment on the truck for a year, and then it would be a 7-year term.
so it'd be 8 years you'd have it.
Yeah.
We'd have the truck 8 years, but we wouldn't pay for the first year, we'd start
Right.
paying the second year.
What's the expected life of this type of truck?
If you take care of them, 15 to 20.
Okay.
If you use them every single day, like the Vortex and those guys, it's not gonna be that, but we're not gonna use it every day.
This is funny.
Is there a residual in this lease, or is it a dollar buyout?
It's a buyout as far as I know, but I'm not a finance guy, so you know more about it than I do. This is just what I was given for the options, and that's what I'm presenting to you. I have more paperwork from them that I could give to you, but I was trying to make the package.
I understand. When I see the word lease,
Mhm.
I wonder if.
It's lease to own, I can tell you that.
Okay.
It's
You don't
not
know if
leased
there's
to,
a residual.
not leased, yeah, it's not leased to release, it's leased to own. At the end of this term, we own it.
This is all of the.
Well, I'm looking at, so if you take the 7, so it'd be 763, 61 for the 8 years, right? And you're financing, your interest is 153.61 on a $610,000 vehicle. You're only paying $18,795 in interest per year.
And so, yeah, and so there's
The other
another,
one-
there is another financing option.
I was gonna say, because the short-term one, you're paying $26,000 a year, and then the other one is $22,000 a year. So you're actually better off to have it longer.
Yeah, and then the next, so that's the NCL leasing options right there. And then this is from a company called Alliance Funding Group. They will only go up 6 years. They actually give the interest rate. So the interest rate, if you pay quarterly arrears, I don't know what that means. I assume it just means you pay quarterly, but I don't know why they put arrears on there. They could just say you pay quarterly.
Because you're not
Pay
gonna
it
make
at
your
the end
first
of the
payment
month.
till after the first quarter,
Yeah.
is what they're saying.
Oh, right on, yeah. So, the interest rate for quarterly is 6.86. The interest rate if you pay semi-annual is 6.94. But when I multiply out these numbers, they're pretty close to the other ones.
Yeah, it's only, it's only a 0.08% difference.
Okay. So, I just put this as study funding sources, using NCL, which I've already said, breaks out to $36.33 per, that we carried as an annual payment. for the term of the financing in our capital budgets. Unless you want it in our operations budgets, it's completely up to you.
If you lease it or borrow, it's debt service, so it's not capital.
Okay. I'm gonna go with what you said. Operational costs. All right, so, I wanted to give you a complete picture of, if we own it, this is what we're gonna pay for it. Fuel, so it's a 50-gallon fuel tank. Average cost of diesel right now is about $4.28. I looked it up the other day. So one tank of fuel is about $212.50. Typical fuel mileage, 7 to 10 miles a gallon. I use 8 miles a gallon, which means about 400 miles per tank. The truck is for local use, so I wouldn't expect we'd put a lot of miles on it. But when you're using the truck, it is on idle all the time. It doesn't get shut off. So I put in an estimated total of 1,000 miles a year to be conservative, projected. Yep, absolutely. Projected, which would equate to roughly $530 in fuel a year is what I'm projecting. And obviously until we own it and use it, we don't know. Man hours. So the truck that we're looking at, technically it could be operated by one person according to the vendor, but, I would expect a minimum of 2 people and probably 2 more for traffic control. You guys on board with that? Okay? So if you look at that, during a typical 8-hour workday, I envision 6 hours are actually able to use the truck, because people gotta come to work, get ready, get the truck on the road, so. To be able to accomplish the necessary tasks listed, which I moved those, so you haven't seen it yet. I think we use the truck for approximately 20 days a year to do vacuum, jetting, and that type of stuff that we need it for, not including any unanticipated things that
Is this
come
just for
up.
the wastewater?
Nope.
Thank you.
So
This is for everybody, this is for you guys
for
too.
20 days per year for,
20 days would do highway and Adams. no,
So,
it wouldn't.
well, we're gonna move off that, and that number could change.
It
This
doesn't, unless you're hiring someone,
We're not.
it won't affect your budget
Thank you,
anyway.
because that's the other thing I was gonna ask you guys, but they're gonna be here for an 8-hour workday anyway. Whether they're using the vac truck or whether they're working ditching or whatever, I don't know that this number really has any value, because they're gonna be here working. We're not looking to hire anybody else to run the vac truck.
It just tells us how much it's gonna be used, I guess.
I'm just trying to put a projection out there
That's
of,
the important part.
to give you as much information as I can give
So
you.
to be clear, and I think I'm hearing this, that 20 days a year is not per department, it's an aggregate amount.
Yeah, so like if we were gonna vac and jet, so basically what it comes down to is scheduling, right? Because highway's got a ton of stuff they gotta do besides this. Water's got stuff to do, I got stuff to do. So it's not like we can just every day, hey, let's hop in the back truck and go do whatever. So it's gonna have to be scheduled out during the year. And we're gonna be able to say, okay, for this week, we're gonna vac and jet wastewater mains. And then Adam, let's designate a week for you for clean out catch basins. And Reggie, you need to have your lagoons cleaned out, so we'll designate, some time for you to clean out your catch basins. And so, the really good thing about owning the vehicle, which I will come to later, is that you have the flexibility to do things when you want to do them and schedule them when you want to schedule them. So, I checked insurance about $1,500 a year. So, we carry about $1,500 more insurance a year. Annual maintenance costs. So this comes directly from the maintenance guys at Chadwick Bay Ross. Okay?
Can I stop just 1 second?
Sure.
You're telling me we're gonna insure a $610,000 asset for $1,500 a year?
So that number is from, I had somebody check with the MMA, our Maine Municipal Association, and ask them if we added an asset like this, roughly what they think it would increase our insurance cost per year. And that's the number I got. So.
It's only out for 20 days.
Okay, so you gotta grease it, you got 40 or 50 grease fittings you gotta deal with, lubricants, you gotta buy lubricants for it, but we're talking about 500 hours before they're required to be changed, so that's gonna be more than a year. So these aren't annual costs necessarily, they're just costs that I broke out for you guys. Air filters, $800 per air filter, they last 4 to 6 years. So if you amortize that cost into a yearly cost, you can figure that out. And then it's also different if you're cleaning and vacuuming storm drains, like culverts, catch basins, things like that, you get less life. And if you're vacuuming sanitary use, or storm and dry vacuuming, will be on the lower end of the lifespan. And if we're using it to cleaning jet sewers and stuff, you're on the higher end of the scale. So, because probably the abrasiveness of the sand and stuff and the catch basins and yeah, it affects the lifespan of the filters. Hoses and tubes, there are 2 main 8-inch diameter rubber suction hoses per unit. They're $1,800 for both. The hoses should be rotated a quarter turn for maximum life. With proper maintenance, the hoses are known to last 2 to 4 years depending on your application. Same thing, storm, lower end, sanitary, higher end. If I'm moving too fast, let me know. I just know there's other people that gotta go and I don't wanna keep you guys here all night.
Appreciate that.
Aluminum vacuum tubes. There's up to 30 feet of 8-inch diameter tubes. They cost $300 for a 6-foot section. Tubes last 5 to 10 years. During this time, only need replacement when damaged. Storm lower end, sanitary higher end. Okay, then you have the jetting hose that we had, the 1-inch jetter hose on the front of the unit. 600 feet of it. High pressure jetting hose cost for the reel $3,600 mounted on the front. So it's gonna easily last 5+ years.
Mike, what's jetting?
So if you have a plug in your sewer, or if you have a storm culvert or something that's got a lot of sand and stuff built up in it, jetting is you take a high pressure hose, almost like a pressure washer hose, but this one's 1 inch around. You have a special nozzle on it that has a jet that shoots forward, but it also has up to, it can have several jets that actually shoot backwards to propel this hose into the pipe. And then as it hits debris, the front jet bores a hole into it. As the hose passes into the blockage, then the back jets start blowing the debris back to you at the back where the hose came from. And then the vac is in action, so as that stuff drains back to you, the vac sucks it out of the hole and into the truck, and it's no longer in your system.
That's crazy.
That sounds really cool.
Thank you.
I want to see it.
It's really effective.
Can city councilors come out? And
Is it air or is it water?
It's water.
It is water. Okay.
Yeah, so the truck has probably like a 1,000-gallon tank or something on it that we would jet water with. And it heats it up, so it's hot water if we want hot water.
So where do we fill that up? Like a-
Right at the plant. We use effluent.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean, you can fill it in a
you
hydrant,
wanna be on the-
But that way,
but,
we don't have to pay for it.
yeah.
Sorry, Red.
So according to Ronald Cookchich, he works at Chadwick Bay Ross, per year, normal maintenance should be in the $2,500 to $3,500 for a yearly maintenance on it. So this is what I'm looking at for annual ownership, assuming that you, just using the 108,000 number. So you got your lease costs, I just rounded it up. Your man hours, which you probably don't need to put in there because they're gonna be working anyway. And then your annual maintenance, insurance, fuel, and these are all projections, so they could be higher, they could be lower. So after the 8th year, the lease is complete, the truck is ours, annual cost drops to approximately $18,000 a year.
Well, except
Yeah.
you're gonna have maintenance. And after 8 years, you're probably gonna have a lot more.
Yeah,
maintenance.
so that's why I was trying, I don't know how to make that go backwards.
That's okay.
But anyway, that's why I was trying to capture those maintenance costs that are 4 to 6 years out and
Oh, okay, yep.
5 years out. So you can see that, yes, if we bought the truck, so at the wastewater plant, I have a fixed maintenance software. So this truck would get put into the fixed software. The preventative maintenance stuff would get put into the fixed software. And so then, as those milestones are reached, it would generate a work order saying, hey, you gotta change the filters. Hey, you gotta change the oil. So that would be the intent for us to maintain the truck the way it's supposed to be maintained.
So where would this piece of equipment, vehicle, whatever you want to call it, be stored for the other 345 days of the year?
It could be we have room for it to park at the wastewater plant. He could put it at the highway garage. He could put it, we have room to put the truck.
Okay. So it looks huge.
The difference that the only thing that you would look at that I'm not proposing this year, we would have to winterize the truck every year. Or as a future capital, we would look at having a building that we would store it in. But for now, if we decide to go through with it, then we would have to, winterize the truck in the winter because it would be outside. There's no place to put it inside. So, and the cost of a building big enough to put that truck in is not something I was trying to put in along with this.
I'll try with mine.
I'm trying to be sensitive here. Okay, so now, if we contract it, right? So these are all different companies we've used in the past years to do stuff for us, contract out the stuff that we need to do. And we're not even contracting all the stuff we need to do. So these are the different maintenance tasks. So right now, Vortex is the company we use the most. They charge $3,200 a day for a truck to come and do whatever. Okay, so the last two times they jet and vacuumed a third of the sewer system, they were here for 10 days each run. We vacuum out the High Street Pump Station, Water Street Pump Station, and the Main Street Pump Station. Each year it takes 2 days. And we're not doing that. We haven't done that in a little while because the Water Street project took care of the Water Street well. High Street project's gonna take care of the High Street well. So we are gonna have to vac the Main Street well soon. Vacuum out the septic tank, which is where all the stuff we take into the plant passes first before it moves on. We have to vac that out every year because it accumulates so much sand and grit in it. So the last two times, it took 2 trucks in 3 days to vac that out. And the reason you have 2 trucks in 3 days is because we can't dispose of that stuff locally. So they try to do it with 1 truck and do it in 2 days, but once the truck's full, it has to travel to Juniper Ridge landfill in Old Town and then travel back. And that's all dead time during the day, which we're paying for. Before they can come back. So that is why now we have 2 trucks. So 1 truck vacs, fills, we send them out. Next truck backs up, they start vacuuming and filling before we send them out. So that's done each year. Vacuuming out our sludge storage tanks, 2 trucks, 5 days, we just did it. Literally 2 days ago they finished. We haven't got a bill for it yet. But that's not a yearly thing, that would be probably every 2 to 3 years. We would look at doing that now. Public Works. Public Works needs to clean out a third of their catch basins. How many catch basins do you think you got out? How many hundred?
300.
Right? So, I estimated based on the last time Bernie had Clean Harbors come in, it took 5 days. Okay? So that's 5 days, times 3,200. The highway department has a holding tank that they have a septic company come and pump out. We could pump it out with the back truck. Clean out culverts. How many culverts we got, Adam?
I don't know that. But don't forget, there's also new tanks and the recycling center.
Yeah, I didn't know about those, so yeah. But just so you get some overarching scope on the consequences of not cleaning out your culverts and catch basins. We just spent $280,000 doing a stormwater investigation with Vortex and Wyndham Curran, trying to figure out the Oak Street drainage project and how many lines were so full of sand they couldn't get through, so now we're gonna pay them another $70,000 to come back and do those. And it's because they're not being done on a regular basis. And that's because when you look at budget numbers that you'd have to add to budgets to adequately maintain everything, it would be a severe impact on the budget and the mill rate. Not from necessarily my department, but from Adam's department, for sure. And then this is actually new, so when I first started looking at buying a back truck, I didn't even wasn't even on my radar that you could excavate with them. So, and I have real-time experience with that because we had a water break in one of our treatment lines at the treatment plant, and it was right next to a building. And it had conduits running through. I mean, I had Adam come up and look at it. It had a storm drain right there. The thought of bringing an excavator up there wasn't gonna happen.
Terrifying.
Yeah. So we ended up hiring R.F. Jordan to come up with the vac truck that they have. And we just cut the pavement, and then they took the vac and they just vac down through everything. Vacuum excavated it, no damage to anything. And we fixed the pipe, but it cost us $15,000. That's what happens. Water department, so they got a backwash tank, which probably wouldn't take that long to suck out, but they got lagoons that they should be cleaning out. And we've never done it with a vac truck, so I don't know how long it would take them to do the lagoons. So I just estimated 5 days. The boat launch has a holding tank that we pay a septic company to suck out. We can do that. Water breaks, right? We have a lot of water breaks, okay? We have an old system, right? Would you rather have an excavator digging that up and possibly hitting our sewer mains and things like that on the way down? Or would you rather have a vac truck? And the reason it's so important with the vac truck is because if you excavate a water main break, until you get the water shut off, and sometimes you can't, the excavator is trying to remove the water from the hole. And it's a very slow process, and sometimes it's a losing battle. You have the vac truck there, the vac truck's vacuuming out the hole, and if the water's coming in, it vacs the water out too. And this particular truck actually has a feature on it where you can divert the water through the truck, shoot it at the back end of the truck through a lay flat hose at 800 gallons a minute, and send it to wherever you want to send it to keep that area that he's trying to work in clear so he can fix that water break, even if there's water coming.
So you can't use this truck during the winter?
Yeah, you can. You just have to drain the
Because you said you
antifreeze
have
out of it, and then after you're done with it, you'd have to
Put it
put
back
the
in? 'Cause
antifreeze
you,
back
I
in.
mean, most of your breaks happen in winter, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So but you could do that, you could bringing out from wherever.
Yeah, because like we have a trailer mounted, just a jetter, and we just fill it with RV antifreeze, and then if we need to use it, we drain the RV antifreeze and go use it, and then put RV antifreeze back in. I mean, it's a lot more RV antifreeze than we use, but until we can get a building, this is where we're at. All right, so the current cost for the tasks that we're talking about. So last time in 2021, when they came up and they did a third of my sewer system, that was the cost. So one year was $40,882, the other year was $33,000. Some of that's camera work, so it's not all complete vac and jet. The caveat I would submit to that is we also have a camera system. It's just not functioning, but if we wanted to upgrade and repair the camera system, we could have done the whole thing. We can do the whole thing. Cleaning out the septic holding tank, that's what it costs. So the last time we had the septic holding tank cleaned out, it cost us 17 grand. Last time Mark Jordan excavated the water break, 15,000. The stormwater investigation that I talked about, that was $280,000. So I called Brent, I said, Brent, how much of that money was actually Vortex money? And how much of it was what incur money and other monies? $110,000 is what we paid to Vortex, including the money you just authorized. That's what we're gonna pay to Vortex for that investigation. So this just shows money we spent with these different companies, and this is out of Eunice, right? So we used to use ACV to do our vac stuff, clean out the septic tanks, things like that. Over the years, we paid them almost 30 grand.
How many years, Mike, are we talking about?
So ACV, you're probably we don't use them anymore, so you're probably talking about a 2 or 3 year period, probably about 4 or 5 years ago. Vortex is what is in Munis for Vortex. And so the money that you spent for the stormwater investigation didn't get put through Casell. Wood and Kern generated that. And I guess we paid Wood and Kern, and Wood and Kern pays Vortex. So that's that. You know, we've used Aaron Anderson for 100 different things. This goes back many years, and we would probably still use it because the vac truck's so big that we wouldn't use it for some of the smaller stuff. I'm just capturing it to show that how much money we spent on outside contractors. Clean Harbors is another vac company. Clean Harbors is who Bernie used when he did the, last time he did the stormwater, 66,000. So here's some other considerations that may not get thought about when you're talking about this stuff. First, you're a slave to their schedule. If I call Vortex and say, hey, I want you to come clean out my septic tank, he's gonna tell me, well, let me see what I have for dates available and I'll get back to you. And then he's gonna call me and say, hey, can you do it April 25th? And I'll say, sure. He says, okay, we'll send the trucks up April 25th. Second piece, you're subject to their current priorities. So the last time they were gonna do the septic tank, it got delayed 3 times because each day that they were supposed to come up, there was an emergency call. So they diverted the trucks away from us to an emergency call and our stuff didn't get done that day. Okay? The other problem you have is they only work during the day. And you're still paying them if they're traveling to Juniper Ridge. So, whereas if we, like, a small example was during the Water Street pump station project, we actually did the crossing of Water Street. The city did it because we didn't want to pay T-Buck the excessive amount of money they wanted to do the crossing. So we actually did the Water Street pipe crossing. Me, Adam, and Reggie. And there was a situation where we had water come in and we couldn't get the excavator around. And so we used his little vac that he's got, which is like a 3-inch line. And it helped immensely to clear the sand and stuff out of the way so we could fix what we were trying to fix. But if we'd have had a big truck, because we had to go empty it multiple times. And so it's just time we were there until, I don't know, 4 or 5 in the morning, I can't remember what it was. But if we'd have had the vac truck, we'd just zip, fixed it, gone away. The other thing is if they don't finish the task, they're not guaranteed to come back and finish. So I just told you that they did our sludge storage tank and they just finished it. They started in November. Came out in November, 2 trucks, crews, vacked, only got half the tank done. So then they tried to come back in February. Sent 2 trucks, crews, got in there for about a half day. Oh, it's too frozen, we can't deal with it. Like, you knew what the weather was like when you came up here. So they charged me, but we got into a tiff over it. So instead of charging me for 2 trucks, they charged me for 1 truck, and they didn't charge me for the debris that they had sucked up and took up to Juniper Ridge, because you have to pay a disposal fee for that. So, but it was still $3,200 I paid them for basically not doing that. Wasting my time, that's what they did. So in summary, I've advocated for this truck for several years because I believe in the long run we'll save thousands of dollars. The amount of money my department alone spends each year is roughly 50 grand. This piece of equipment is extremely versatile. It gives the flexibility to operate on our own schedule. We would have 24-hour access to the unit in case of emergencies like a water main break. The payback on the investment is reasonable, and I strongly urge the council to consider approving the request.
So where do you put the stuff once you back it up?
We'd have to do the same thing.
Take it to Juniper Ridge?
Unless it's catch basins or water main, we can dump that in the pit. Only when you're doing sewer, which is special waste is called, special condition waste, we'd have to ship that to Juniper Ridge.
So you would drive that great big truck all the way to Juniper Ridge?
Yeah, no choice.
How expensive is Juniper Ridge?
So we have our own account at Juniper Ridge, so if the contractors, like when Vortex priced it for us, they wanted to charge us $99 a ton. Our price, this was years ago, our price when we set up our own account was like $69 a ton. It's gone up since then. I don't know what the exact number is, but when we use Vortex, I give them a manifest with our account number, and when they get to Juniper Ridge applies it to our account.
Oh, so we're already paying for that, so it's not an extra
Yeah.
cost? Okay, interesting.
So it's a big ticket item. I've tried to make it somewhat less of an impact to the budget. But it's a necessary item. And, I've advocated for it for a long time, and now Reggie's seen it in action, Adam's seen it in action, they can speak to the need as well. And it's never gonna be easy no matter when you try to do this, right? So just for an example, the last time I looked at trying to purchase a vac truck, it was in that 23 general obligation bond. And the price for the vac truck at that time was 400,000. Now it's 600,000. And I'm not saying it's the exact same feature to feature, so I'd have to go back and look apples to apples. But it's not gonna get cheaper.
Do you need a special license to drive it?
We have guys,
Right.
The Class B.
Class A, isn't it?
Class B, minimum that has it.
Yeah. And so, I think we have that piece covered. I mean, it's a collaborative effort. It would be a collaborative effort between highway, water, sewer. If I got something that I needed back, then I would send guys, Adam would send a driver. You know, it'd be the same way with Reggie. Yeah.
Yeah, I could send guys to do when you do stuff.
Yeah, and so, it's how you get things done, and at the end of the day, 8 years out, you're raking in the money.
Well, and if your numbers are correct, you know, if you split it up between the departments, you're saving money, because if you're spending $50,000 a year on the
Yeah.
truck, and you're budgeting it for 36
Yeah.
change.
So if you look at my appropriations budget right now, the ask for sewer line maintenance was 50,000.
I put in 70 this year.
He put in 70. And then,
And you would be able to take all that 70 out, Adam? No?
and then for the plant and the building and maintenance line item, which has been 35,000 a year, I actually, I did some robbing Peter to pay Paul to bump that up to 50, because that 17.5 comes out of the plant maintenance, building and maintenance budget. So between sewer line maintenance and the money I spend out of the building maintenance account for the plant, just me alone, you're talking, 50 or 60 grand, and that's without pumping out the Water Street, High Street, and Main Street pump stations. That's not being done because we got lucky with the projects that are going on, so I just gotta do Main Street.
So if your numbers are right, Mike, and Adam's numbers are right, and we're financing it, we're saving money.
Oh, yeah.
Year one, and then after it's done, paid for, really saving money.
Yeah.
So we would spend more money by not buying this, if you're.
That's what I'm trying to, that's the whole point of my presentation is,
You should
gotten out of here
lead,
already.
you should lead with that next time.
After a 35-minute
well,
presentation.
well, when you're talking about $610,000, I wanna make sure everybody's clear.
But you led with the 610,000, it's like, oh, there it is. But yeah, that's a key point. I think a
No, I think
couple-
it's great,
a
and I
couple-
really wanna get this vac truck, cause it sounds cool.
I know.
Everybody's
Well,
gonna wanna
I used to have a
drive
Class B
day.
license, actually. I could go get it renewed 15 years ago.
And if you wanna see one in action, Vortex is gonna be here, I don't know when to do their investigation action. Yeah, that's the 70,000 you guys just
Patrick wants a
appropriate.
ride along to Juniper Ridge.
Come on, I won't be driving.
Just looking at the preliminary FY '25 bottom line for the overall percentage increase, the first year deferral is kind of appealing if we go this route as well, just every little bit we can.
That's why I suggested this, because I know you guys are up against it this year. There's a lot of people asking for positions, a lot of budgets are, you're talking probably 20% increases. And so, that's why I looked at the NCL option to try and defer that first payment. Keeps that little bit of $108,000 in our pockets for other stuff that we wanna do this year.
I have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
How many days a year did you say you thought you might use this?
I projected 20 years, but
20 days per year?
20 days, but I think it's, once we get to use it and understand how it works and guys get comfortable with it, yeah, like Adam is thinking, we're gonna be up around 40 days. And he's probably right,
Okay.
but you don't know what you don't know, and we've never owned one,
Right.
so.
So
I'm just-
a couple other ideas on how to pay for it, basically. Again, are there, because of the work it does, are there environmental values and climate resilience values where, again, there might be DEP funding for it, or
So-
from GoPIF with climate resilience stuff?
Yeah, so what I can tell you as far as the DEP piece goes, no.
Okay,
Unless there's new programs, but, like, there was been times in the past, even with the extra money we've had from the treatment plant, where we've, and in other projects that have been involved outside of the city,
yeah.
where we've asked DEP and USRD actually one time to fund a vehicle, and they were like, no, we're not doing that. And so, maybe if it's under the right circumstance, you could get a different answer from them, but that was the answer that I got, was, we're not gonna fund a vehicle. I don't know about the climate resiliency piece of it, maybe there's something under the climate resiliency piece of it that you could look at, but, come on down, Matt.
For the climate action grants that GoPIF does,
Yeah,
I don't know if this would fit into one of their action items that you have to do. It would require no match from the city. You could make an application and just ask for the 50K. But then we would, if it doesn't exactly fit into one of their action items that they have, you'd have to provide match 1-for-1 with that grant. And those grants max out at $50,000, so it's not even like a huge help,
but it's
something.
$50,000.
But it's something, right.
So-
And right now, we're in a GoPIF
Right.
cycle, so we have to wait till the next year to also do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if we're using it 40 days a year, what about approaching other towns to see if they would go in on it with us as well, if they use it for some number of,
I'm just gonna say, I'm not in favor of that. And the reason I'm not in favor of that is just because it becomes very convoluted. Right, so let's just say we're talking Trenton, Hancock, maybe, I don't know.
You have liability issues too.
Yeah, so are you talking about contract services where we're going there and doing work for them?
That seems simpler.
Because if we're gonna be looking at doing that kind of stuff, plus trying to maintain the workloads that we've all got going on, and, how much do you charge them? How far away do we go?
Your insurance will go up too, because now you're.
well,
I was thinking the same thing.
yeah, I mean, regional approaches, trying to share equipment, but this is the same conversation asking farmers about sharing haying equipment. They all go, I couldn't possibly do that, we all need it at the same time.
And I'm not saying I'm not receptive to the idea. I'm just saying there's no mechanism in place right now that we could even look at to say, hey, it's working, let's emulate that and try and set up some regional collaborative. And then the thing that I find with the history of Ellsworth is 9 times out of 10, because of who we are, because we're a service center, collaborative efforts, usually we end up with a lion's share of the problem.
Well, and if we have the lion's share of the work, but you see what I'm saying? What are the ways, if we're using it 40, we're gonna spend $600,000. All of your math as to why it makes sense, but how can we make it make more sense? If we're using it only 40 days a year,
That's projected.
right? Well, I gave you that, you said 20 to
Yep.
40, so the 40,
Yep.
what are some other levers that we can use? So, putting it out there to see what we might
Yep.
Well,
be
the
able
only thing
to
is
work
is
with.
that, so the surrounding towns, until you get to Brewer, don't have their own highway
That's what I was gonna
departments.
say. I'm not
and-
sure what we'd
and
be
sewer
doing.
departments and water
I
departments.
wouldn't be sure what we'd be doing for them.
Do they
Yeah.
have sewer?
Trenton does not
Do
have
they have
sewer,
wastewater?
Hancock does not have sewer,
Water's
nobody,
Arrival, no.
the only place close to us that has sewer would probably be Blue Hill
Bar Harbor,
and Bar Harbor, but Bar Harbor I think has their own.
Yeah.
gold-plated
Yeah,
trucks.
Spinning rims.
I'm not saying anything.
Yeah, so that's the other piece too.
They're not
And
listening
then,
to us. They're
are
too-
we gonna go do it for them, or do they wanna have their person come and get the truck and use it, and then
Right.
if something happens, who pays for it?
Manpower.
And the
Yeah.
manpower, we
Yeah,
don't use
that's-
manpower.
Charlie
We
and
have that.
Herbie, it just is there.
Government does not belong in business.
Exactly.
Bingo.
But shared resources make a lot of
But
sense.
sharing a
when it makes
$600,000
sense, so.
truck
If the other towns don't have sewer lines, then it doesn't make sense, but, you know, we do it with fire equipment, we do it with other things of sharing amongst.
Come drive it home to Castine. Got
Yeah.
some sewer out there.
I don't mind cruising out there.
Imagine taking that truck all the way.
Yeah, rolling up past the golf course.
Oh, my
You
God.
guys go jet that line, I'm playing 9 right here.
9 gallon, what is it, what'd you say, 9 miles a
It's
gallon?
closer than
8
Juniper
to
Ridge.
10 miles a gallon, yeah.
8 to 10 miles a gallon? Yeah,
Okay, let's move it along here, folks.
yeah, seriously, it's
Okay.
9.
Thank you, guys.
Reggie,
I
you're up.
really don't wanna get home at 10:30 again tonight.
42 minutes past my bedtime.
Yeah,
We're all
my
right there.
alarm to go to bed is gonna go out
How
in
about it,
18 minutes.
I tried to name my son Reggie, but my wife wouldn't let me. The Reggie Jackson.
So can I just ask a quick question, and I know you guys have sat here. Is it possible to have another night, because it's 8:45, and we've had a 10:30 meeting, and
Adam's
What do
been
we
here the
have
whole time
left?
too. I feel like.
Well, how much more do we have
how much
ahead?
time do we have left?
I've only got a couple of things.
You,
Okay.
if you guys.
Great.
So don't ask
Let's
any
fly.
questions.
I did this meeting already, these guys, it was 45 minutes.
No, we just.
It's the pesky question.
So, I'll get this all set up for you in a second.
I'm getting cranky too.
I'm a little hangry.
You need to bring sandwich next time.
I've been here since 6:20 when I did a live TV
So
spot.
one quick thing on the vac truck,
For who?
the water department is looking to, I'm hoping to build an office/garage workshop. So my initial thought was that we could just add on a bay, a garage bay, big enough to put that truck in.
And then you could use it in the winter when you have all your water main breaks.
Right. So, the first thing I have, is Birch Avenue paving. So the road needs to be redone. Not too long ago, we renewed the water main up through there with the highway department. So this is a shared cost for, or with the highway department of $16,180.
Okay.
My next item is $39,000 for gravel, and this is actually gravel that's already been put down for Clearwater Way. So this is to repay the highway department for their time and materials to, oh, no time, okay. Just the gravel, to resurface Clearwater Way. I think the next two items I have are trucks, but I think that pretty much got beat up already. So
Well,
we're
I'm
gonna.
not saying it's a bad thing, I'm really not, I'm just saying
So-
we ought to just look at it.
Yeah, so I'm just saying we skip that for now and till we figure out what we're gonna do. Tank cleaning. Now, I put in $20,000. That can get reduced to, 10,600. So for $10,600, I can have, a company come in and clean out 2 of our storage tanks here in town. The extra money was to clean out our lagoons, so if the vac truck goes through, 10,000 can get wiped off of
You
that.
couldn't clean those other tanks out with a vac truck though?
No, they do it live, so the tank just stays in service and they dive in the tank and clean out the sediment. Yeah, so there's the one behind Brown's Appliance and the one up behind the high school. No, Dollar Hill. The high school got done last year.
So,
That is so cool too, I just have to say that they go in there literally and dive and clean those tanks,
Whoa,
in the tank,
whoa.
I've got video of it.
yeah.
So Reggie,
Yeah, not claustrophobic.
is storage tank cleaning and tank cleaning the same thing? Because
Yes.
there's 2 line items on here, so it looks like the
Oh,
20,000.
yeah, you've got my old one.
Okay, so it should be the 10,
Yeah.
6, okay. All right, so that can be reduced by,
And that's all I have on my list for capital stuff this year.
Great.
So just, you need 2 trucks, but you're looking at.
So
you're looking
again,
at other-
like with what Mike was gonna do, I was gonna try to slowly work my trucks into, so they, the lease, get them all replaced at the same time. So the
So
2
it's a-
trucks I wanna get rid of, one's a 2018, one's a 2019. They're both half-ton pickups. I'd like to upgrade to 3/4 ton and get lift gates on them.
For $1,000 a month, right?
Yes, yep.
And what are you gonna trade those in for the,
So I did not get a price back for trade-in, but it would be either trade-in to the lease company or,
sell them outright?
yeah, sell them outright. Yeah, they're nothing that Adam wants, they're
Is that a
half
need
tons.
anymore?
They're half tons, they really wouldn't make it
Yeah.
with the highway
So,
department.
but it does sound like if Mike's gonna go back and look at other options, you guys can.
I'll
work
mimic what
together
Mike's
and-
gonna do.
Okay, that's good. That makes sense.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
When they dive in that tank, do they sterilize, how do they keep that
So
sterile?
their suit and everything gets sterilized before they go into it.
And the stuff that they're cleaning out gets vacuumed as soon as it's,
Yeah, there's like a 4-inch hose or a 6-inch hose that goes into a truck and they have to haul it away.
yeah, see, it was sterilized, thank you.
Amazing.
You got me.
So in
worried.
figured
that,
they
by
must have
cleaning
had
out
to.
the High Street standpipe, that actually should help with our disinfection byproduct issue that we're having.
Tank diver double bug.
There are very few companies that do that.
Really good idea.
I bet there is. You'd have to be not claustrophobic to dive into those tanks.
Yeah,
All right.
scraping off the
We're
good.
not even talking manure tanks, that's a different conversation.
Awesome,
on the
thanks,
board.
Rick.
That was fast.
Thank you.
Somebody
Adam, they should
gave us
have.
something. Yeah. We got the goods.
What, I don't know.
Tank, yeah, tank diver double.
Thanks, Reggie.
Gritty.
You can go, they're just gonna.
Okay.
dive, so you can-
The first one is the request of the local roads. It is a big number. Charlie and I met, and we may be able to cut some of this down from funding from last year. But this is the initial ask.
Where is that? It's the very last page of the,
I just think it's really funny that it's like $1,129,975. You know, like, let's just do 1.2 or 1.
I was trying to do.
I know,
you
I
know,
know.
yeah.
You were very exact. It's funny.
And that's a snapshot of some of the roads. Reggie touched on Birch Avenue. That has had its first coat of pavement, but it has not had its second, and it has not had curbing yet. And both of those are included in that price.
I'm so glad to see you're gonna do Foster Street.
You're not
That is
alone.
such a bad hill.
My crew is ready to,
It's a-
Should be under
Local
public
roads.
works, right?
Maybe we do need those sheets.
I don't think mine has
Right,
that.
vehicles and air compressors.
Yeah, just that way you know you've got everything.
Yeah, we didn't get that one.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. You have a million, two.
Or just email it.
I can't wait to get a photo.
This is all I got.
Wait, I like random stacks of paper.
Okay, go ahead.
so the second one is my portion of Mike's back truck.
Can you bring up the power?
No, we're good.
Yep,
Mike was very thorough.
and moving right along.
45 minutes thorough.
The next one is a request for the air compressor and air lines. This was funded in '22, but we never completed the project, never started the project, so, and we didn't request to encumber them, so rather than
Yep.
going through all that, we were just requesting it again.
But we might be able to use fund balance to. Okay.
And then, so the next one is a single axle plow truck with plow gear. The current one is 10 years old and full of issues. It's part of the Max Force engines and been very costly to maintain. It does only have 50,000 miles on it, but they're hard miles, you know, those are all plowing miles.
No, absolutely.
Questions on that one? What's that? That's a single axle plow truck. Almost the last one is, the next one's the loader. We need to replace our John Deere loader. The current one that we have is 15 years old, and we have permanently loaned it to the wastewater treatment plant to load their sludge out of. We absolutely need 2 loaders at the garage between snowstorms, loading, hauling gravel, pushing stuff up in the pit, picking up sweeping piles. So currently, the new one we have, the Volvo, is 4 years old, I believe now. This one's 15. They typically, we keep them 20 years, so it's a 5-year, we're jumping ahead 5 years on it. And there is different financing options, but I wasn't sure on which way we wanted to go, if we were looking to lease or purchase. So I can get lease numbers if you want them.
Probably gonna do the same with 2 companies I got.
I don't think it hurts to get different
Okay.
options,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah. The last one is a International Paystar Wheeler. This truck is, whatever the year listed on that, 2005, but it's a very heavy-duty wheeler. It's all pre-emissions. There's 133,000 miles on the truck, and there's no reason why it won't go another 70 or 80. That being said, the body on it is seen much better days. It was a salt truck, so the metal has deteriorated to the point where it is, well, it's leaking. We can't haul gravel with it right now. We've been hauling snow with it, but it's to the point where we need to put a body on it or do something different. And for $20,000, the truck is totally worth putting that kind of money into it.
Creative thinking, I like that.
And that's all I have.
I'll say Adam, I and the team worked on kind of the roads piece and maybe for the last round, talking about getting the GIS map and kind of what'll be there. And I know Ann, working on what was for last year, what was for this year, so we'll get you some pre-dialed in numbers. I like roads, to see roads.
People like roads.
People, yeah.
Yeah.
I like the roads.
The money that we put for the capital for the roads from last year, did we do it, use it, whatever?
From what we
Not all of it.
looked into, there's kind of you should do this, and then there was the Water Street and some other areas that became critical, and funds got reallocated towards those areas. So it left some money on the table in some ways, and we've got to work on lining that over and to see what, I know we haven't done an encumbrance per se necessarily, but if we're going to do one this year, and then lining that up with this plan. So that's kind of the stage 2, I think, on this project again. And we talked to Woodard and Kern on maybe getting a GIS map of kind of the roads, and they have and did a great job on listing like red, yellow, greens on kind of what's in the worst shape. They even have really down to the numerical scores, so we can get you a good idea of what was done last year, what was kind of in the mix that wasn't, what do we want to carry in, and then, new in as well. So, and also get a plan on a real budget, and we can actually commit to this, and next year we can say, hey, Charlie and Adam, gang, why didn't you get these things done? So, right.
Question, we've used the term encumbrance a few times. Does that mean taking monies that were raised or allocated in one year and holding it over to the next year?
Keep it instead of,
Yeah.
Kind of,
Projects aren't
And
done
apparently we're
budgeted.
supposed to be voting for that once a year, which we have not been doing. It's been said out loud here before.
Yeah.
We've done it
It absolutely
once or
has.
twice for little things.
and correct me if I'm wrong, but we'll kind of take a look at the general fund and all these other pieces and resources, and then, once we have all the counting and the mapping worked over, we can say, hey, this is what we can.
It'll be interesting, once you know what your fund balance is, it's unencumbered, because we haven't encumbered.
Yeah.
You can re-encumber it for some of the projects. that-
All beautification.
Yeah.
And pizza parties.
So Huddle's opinions.
You know,
There we go.
and
Steve, you got a question?
I do,
A ton
I do.
of money on just
Um,
like the Kansas Key one.
I guess my question is, this vac truck that we discussed, is there room at the city highway garage at the cost of keeping something else outside, so you're not putting antifreeze, and this is usable 24/7, 12 months a year?
I want to tell you no, but I won't. If you get that truck, we will shoehorn it in somewhere. But as you have walked out there and seen, there's no room, you know, we're solid full.
Right, but I guess my question is there, if you had the truck, is there a priority schedule where the spare plow truck could be outside?
We keep that outside plugged in now. We have a couple of pickups, a couple of one-tons that we could shuffle things around. And, you know, where that's a water truck and it would freeze when it was cold, we'd get it inside.
Because,
Yeah.
in my opinion, if you're gonna have that toy,
Take care of it.
well, I would think it ought to be ready to work at any time and not say, oh, well, we need it and we gotta drain the antifreeze out and,
I agree with you.
Yeah, we thought the same thing, but the question is how much you wanna bring for an ask, right?
how much you what?
How
Well,
much
if
you
he
wanna
can-
bring in
he-
front of you guys for an ask? Like, if you're gonna bring a $610,000 truck.
No, what I'm saying is, it
Putting it
would
in
make
the-
it more digestible.
Yes.
Is
If,
it long though? Is it too long for our base?
It's not too long and it's not too tall. It's just, it'll be tight.
Something's just gonna have to be outside.
Yeah,
that
a
no one
lot,
uses.
you know, with the pickups and some of the smaller stuff. You know, we don't want to move the plow trucks outside and store them because, you know, same deal. We need them at the drop of a hat in the wintertime.
Yeah.
But, you know, we can shuffle some things around. It'll be tight.
it's not perfect, but it would.
Correct. We'll get by.
Looks like the highway foreman's truck's gonna be outside.
It has been.
I know a guy that can get you a deal in storage containers.
I would like to report,
The solution,
that was
solution to all of us work problems.
not to go down the rabbit hole, but the storage container is on site and
Oh, yeah.
the boxes are there and Maura will be putting out a soft posting real soon.
Great.
Can we be your first piece? That's exciting.
Absolutely.
I know.
I don't wanna pay to put anything in there.
You should have said that yesterday.
Too
We'll
late.
bring all our stuff over there and you can haul it over, right?
That was, oh, that's good. All right, are we all done for the night?
We're all done.
So we'll just
I didn't
move,
mean to hurry
Well,
you guys.
We'll
I'm
move
sorry,
ARPA
we
to
do have
something
ARPA,
else.
sorry, you just wanted to just give the top line number, it was in there.
It's in your folders.
See, isn't that 393?
It's pretty much just an accounting on the, just shy of 400.
393,000.
And I think the final round two will give you options on, I think.
That's what's available for ARPA funds?
Yes.
that's what's left.
And there are certain rules to what you use that for,
Certain
correct?
rules, and it seems like what I'm hearing here, that some of the fire safety stuff is pretty priority here. That's, might not just consume all of it, but, you know, we'll try and create some ways for you all to have those discussions in the last rounds of budget.
Could the fire safety, could that money be used to make it safe for them to be down there, that wall, that?
I don't know about the wall stuff, no.
No, did
That needs to
they,
be equipment, or the
I don't know.
exhaust system, I think it could be used for,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it kind of depends. There's like different ways to like, that you can use the ARPA funds. It's still, city building maintenance is one of those ways though, so like, I think you could use it for that type of repair also.
So that's
Maybe we'll
something
try and
to
get just thinking about that in the ARPA, a way to, you know, highlight, hey, if we're going here and you're thinking like, these are your top 10, top 20 areas where you could use this, here's a manager's recommendation on a mix, but here's other things that you could swap in or out, we could think of something.
That
like
MMA
what
guy
is-
came and gave us a talk about it. And he was like, there's this one category where it was like, you want to do something, it fits in this
It's, you have
category.
to show public revenue losses, and there's like two ways to calculate it. You have to figure out if a project will reduce in public revenue loss or produce public revenue losses, depending on how they calculate it. I don't remember the two ways off the top of my head, but
I probably have it written down on a notebook.
there's potential, yeah. That
so
could show
when we
that.
do the ARPA, we'll have a better list of what we can use it for and what we have used it for and.
Yeah, you think you
The
have
list
what
has
has
what we
been
have
used
used it
for in
Yeah,
the
it's in-
sheet
it's
that
in
you
here.
have. Yeah.
It's on that
Ah,
page.
But yeah, we could put together a little bit more information on potentially what you could use it for, yeah.
It would be nice, because I know that there's a lot of asks to
Yeah.
use up the rest of that money. And like you said, to make a priority list of what we can and not use it for would be great.
Beautification. It's gonna be so, it's beautification.
Fire suppressant
Anything
plants.
that-
All right.
The increased